You can support this show at patreon.com/ASA podcasting.
The wasteland is a post-apocalyptic mess as the sole survivor wanders out about to see the rest. Nuclear explosions sending out the gamma rays from deep within the core, frozen atomic waves. From deep within the core, frozen atomic waves.
Hello and welcome to the 503rd edition of the Fallout Feed. I am Andrew, joined by Jess. Hey, Jess, what's going on?
Hey, I am a flock of your favorite Fallout faces tonight.
He is the flock and the peanut gallery. And Ray is on the road, so Jess and I am also on the road tonight. But Jess is holding down the fort. Everyone else is all rolling out. So I hope Jess has fun, and we'll see you later. Have fun, Jess.
Let's go. No, greets everybody. Yeah, I've got my fingers on all the buttons tonight, but we're going to run it. And people listening live in Discord chat get to enjoy the ride.
Yes, and tonight on the show, we'll go over some gameplay off the top as per our usual pattern. Then we've got feedback from people. We've got that new Ghoul DLC that we'll get into with a new season that just launched for Fallout 76. And maybe a couple of tidbits on the news on our way out the door. So we'll just go ahead and roll right into it and check in with Jess and see if you get a chance to play any video games this week.
You know, I did play a few video games this week, but maybe not the ones you're looking for. This week, you're never going to believe what I installed and booted up.
Madden.
Actually, because Ray's not here, I installed Fallout London. I figured he'd be, happy to miss it. No, what actually happened was I need to get back in and see if it actually survived the migration to the new PC. And it didn't. I couldn't even... I kind of knew that would be the case. Like some of my Steam games and such, you can I swapped the drive, I validated files, they started running. In this case, though, I I got the drive in, but it's not a Steam game because it's so heavily modded. First, it's the modded Fallout 4 install with Fallout London. But then on top of it, I did a manual install of, I probably have like 25 mods going on my Fallout London. So, yeah.
The mod at this point.
Exactly, which you can use a mod manager with it now and stuff like that. But that first 2 months I was playing, I was doing it all kind of manually because we weren't sure how all that would run yet. So I'm re-downloading my mods. I got it reinstalled. I've got it mostly running, but not quite. So you didn't miss anything, Ray. Not that you ever thought I would actually play it anyway, but that was a good day. That was one of my gameplay nights this week. And we actually recorded last Saturday we recorded with Vanessa, right? Last episode?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was fun recording during the day last weekend. And I don't know if we had a different energy, if we brought anything new to the show that way, but I feel like guests are more awake and I'm less awake at 1 in the afternoon.
Well, because you're just waking up at 1 in the afternoon.
I mean, I'm civilized, okay? We've established on the show that whenever I wake up is the morning. And it's not tomorrow until I wake up. So if I go to bed at 8 in the morning on a Saturday and wake up at noon, then it's not tomorrow until noon 01. Yeah, exactly. See, I'm glad you're with the program, Andrew. You understand this.
Oh, I understand. You've lectured this into me about how Jess time works.
I think a lot of people who work third shift and overnight shifts, they kind of get into that point where it is still Friday until at least, when you get home and go to bed. Maybe, maybe they're not quite as stubborn as me and saying it's not tomorrow until I wake up. But really, you know what? It can be tomorrow as soon as I fall asleep. You guys can have that. I won't know. I won't be there. I'll be sleeping. But anyway, gameplay. So I did get Fallout London running. The other thing I installed this week was Oblivion.
Ooh, I just saw a post you did on Blue Sky about some anniversary or some such for Oblivion?
Yeah, so yesterday, March 20th, was Oblivion's 19th anniversary. That was exciting. Got to celebrate. There was, fingers were crossed that would be the day that they announced the Oblivion remakester, but they did not.
Oh.
I know, soon.
There's always next year.
Andrew? Yeah, first quarter 2026, says Andrew.
Yes, exactly.
Rude.
Well, maybe third quarter 2025 if we're lucky.
Oh, well, thank you. You know what? Maybe that would be okay. But rumor has it still that they're going to announce it, and it might even be released within the next month or so. Rumors say by June. So we'll
I'm
find
gonna
out.
sneak it out tomorrow like a Beyonce album.
Exactly. Well, Todd has said many times, the shorter the time between announce and release, the happier he is. And we all want Todd to be happy, right? Like if there's one thing in the world that I want, it's for Mr. Todd Howard to be happy and give me Fallout 5.
And there was much rejoicing.
Why do you think that is? Do you think he just gets hounded by press in that time between announcement and release, or what?
I think that's part of it. Yeah. I mean, especially in the past. I mean, now that the news cycle for gaming has become a little more active, it's hard to escape no matter how you do it. Even before the announcement, people are always, where's Fallout 5? Where's Fallout Season 2? Where's Nuclear Winter?
I forgot. He's a producer on the TV show, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, absolutely.
Forgot about that.
Todd's cooking. So people talk about it either way. But when you announce something, say 2 years ahead or more, like let's talk about a little game called Elder Scrolls 6, first revealed on stage in E3 2018.
Oh my God. Elder Scrolls 6, Skyrim 2.
And we all know that wasn't a real reveal, right? I mean, that's the whole idea.
Yeah, that was a teaser of a teaser.
It's saying, hey guys, here's the agenda. We're going to release this amazing game you're going to love called Fallout 76 that will have absolutely no bugs. Then,
yeah, right.
3 or 4 years later, we're going to release this game I've been thinking about for 20 years called Starfield.
We believe you.
And then soon after that will be Elder Scrolls 6. So it was really just setting an agenda like you did at the start of the show, right? So anyway, Oblivion. So I installed Oblivion because I believe in the remakester coming out, which, by the way, that's what we're calling it now, because we don't know if it's a remaster. We don't know. Some people call it a remake, but we don't know because it's never been officially announced. So it is a remakester. Just use that, everybody. Everybody's happy. It'll work out.
So master entail, let's see, I'm trying to distinguish what the two would actually mean.
The real difference between a remaster and a remake.
The engine that they function on or something?
Sometimes it's the engine. So a remaster usually takes the game as it is and polishes it up a little bit, enhances all of the textures, ups the resolution on the game, improves the FPS, like does all the things to take what was there and improve all the pieces just to make it much prettier, but you're still playing the same game, just prettier.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes that's done in the same engine. Sometimes it's done with a little 2-layer thing like this is rumored to do, where it's still running with the original core, but that's inside of a framework of something else that's then, answering all of the calls and making things happen. A remake can be done either in a similar engine, like say it was an Unreal 3 game, they ported to Unreal 5, so it might not be like a completely new engine, but essentially like moving what they can and then recreating the rest. A remake, though, will take and they will recreate that system. You know what I mean? They will do new programming to make the game do similar things and add to it. And with the Oblivion remakester, the rumors, isn't it crazy that we first heard about this summer of 2023 and it's never been officially corroborated? Like I said, if Todd's happy, right? But the rumor has said that they are going to do a number of things around the combat and traversal systems. Make combat feel a little more visceral, a little more satisfying. Actually have the enemies maybe even flinch a little when you hit them, as opposed to in Oblivion. You played a little bit of Oblivion, right, Andrew?
Yeah, I've played it a couple times.
Kind of like Fallout 3, it has that thing where you can hit an enemy and not much happens. Like if you're in VATS, you get the kill cams in Fallout 3. That's how they kind of made it happen. But if you're there whacking a guy with your Death Claw gauntlet, you're not going to react that much, And in Oblivion, it was even less. So get things like that in there. But my thought was, I want to see Oblivion as it is right now, like running in the back compat version on the Xbox, like how it runs with 60 FPS, all the colors and stuff. Because the last playthrough I did was after the back compat version was available with some upscale, but it was still, probably 2018. I did a full playthrough. I played with the Skyrimatic podcast in their Oblivion Thieves Guild run, and I played then, but that hardly counts. I got to like level 6 or 7. Although, actually, wait, hold on. You beat Oblivion at level 3, didn't you? Am I remembering correctly?
It was, very low level. I did no side questing, no searching, no exploring, only beeline, only the main quest, and, had to turn the difficulty way down, of course, because I couldn't defeat the end stuff.
Right. But with the
without turning
enemy
the difficulty way down.
level scaling, like some of them are going to be a little tougher, but because you don't level, the enemies aren't going to scale that much. And Oblivion has this
And
fun
actually,
mechanic.
yeah, if you're level 3, your bad guys wouldn't be that
Yep.
high level either.
And if you don't sleep, you don't level. And that's kind of what happened, right? You were just playing and not ever sleeping pretty much.
Yeah, I think. See, I wasn't used to that mechanic that you have to sleep to level. I never really heard of that before.
Right. Andrew goes, he finally sleeps after getting like 40 some levels in various skills. So I bet you got like ×5 on everything every time you leveled.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
I
But
don't
anyway,
remember. It's been a while.
I was really impressed and also bewildered, as I sometimes am, by your gameplay that you did that.
I do weird things sometimes.
A lot of times it's just because you don't know. Like, it's an odd choice, but it worked for you, right? You're like, I'm just going to keep going. I got a quest marker. Let's go.
Might as well.
Yeah. Discover the entire side of the map every game you play. These are things you got to do first.
Yeah, I love doing catching the rim of the map all the way around for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Kind of makes you wonder. Fallout Shelter doesn't have a map, but if it did, you would totally do it there too.
Was thinking about that the other day. Like, if someone has, because Reddit has pretty much conversations about anything you could ever imagine. And I bet you someone on Reddit has actually mapped out all the locations that we are listed in the Fallout Shelter quests, like in some imaginary, like 3-dimensional land. Where do you think Fallout Shelter takes place?
It takes place because it was before Fallout 4. It takes place in the Commonwealth. And they do reference,
Okay.
They're generic versions of them, but they reference on places that appear in the Commonwealth pretty much.
Okay. I was going to say, but they also reference 3, but that's mainly that trivia quest that they reference stuff from 3. So yeah, in 4, we're up in the Commonwealth. I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. It's funny. Notoriously, Clint, our friend Clint, is the person in our community who started with Fallout Shelter first. But I actually think we have somebody in chat. I think Rando Wasteland. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's listening live today. Rando Wasteland. Was Fallout Shelter your first full Fallout game too?
That's remarkable.
Yeah. He says, yes, that's awesome. That is just what a game to start with. One of the neat things about starting with Fallout Shelter is, well, first of all, as Andrew would say, it's the best Fallout game. But,
of course.
But it's got all that Fallout flavor without all the complicated systems. Like, there are systems to learn. I'm not saying there's no depth to the game. There's strategy, there's min-maxing, there's legendary babies, there's all the things you've heard Andrew talk about. But at the same time, you're not going to get encumbered. You're not going to have to deal with your food and drink meters and it's like survival mode.
You do get encumbered just because you have people who return from quests and you only have so many slots for your inventory and they can't come home into the vault until you clear out or sell or scrap stuff. And so they're sitting out there, and a lot of the time I have people lined up outside because I'm just too stubborn to no, I don't want to sell that gun. No, I don't want to scrap that thing. No, they'll just stay out there forever. And I realized that I really should scrap the stuff, get rid of the lower level stuff, bring them in, send them back out so they can get higher level stuff. But I'm just no, I don't want to sell that thing. It's my pack rat attitude. It transfers from every game to every other game, I guess.
In every game. The way you started that sentence when you were saying, they can't come back. And I was thinking you were going to say they can't come back until they've got enough loot. You go out there. You keep going. You go out there until you die and they got to res you or your inventory is completely full.
Now, I was just thinking about that the other day. I was man, I miss resurrecting people because I only play survival mode now. And once they're dead, they're dead. So I don't send anyone out on quests without a pet anymore, because if you have a pet, the pet always survives, and they somehow magically know to pick up all their junk and carry it home. They leave the dead body, but they carry all their items home somehow. It's pretty amazing.
You're essentially, it's like you're sending out a pet as an escort. So it's like Bartertown. 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, except 2 men enter the one wasteland and 1 parrot comes back.
Except for a parrot carrying, a rocket launcher.
A lot of juicy loot. I cannot imagine your dwellers are signing up for wasteland quests. Actually, that's probably not fair.
They're no, get that dog away from me.
Because I imagine your quest teams you always take good care of. You send them to the quest. They got the best armor and the best gear.
Yeah, try to, yeah.
But how did we get here? Right, Oblivion. So my thought was, with the remakes that are coming out, I want to compare the two. So I'm recording, walking through different sections of Oblivion, walking through the Imperial City, walking through Anvil and Bruma, up to Coral, getting some pictures, so that then I can take the same pictures and compare on the remakester. If it comes, let's just assume
You're
that it's
doing
coming
prep
out.
for something that you don't know will happen.
Yeah, but just all the talk about Oblivion between the 19th anniversary and the remakester coming out, and I just had to revisit it. So I played a little of that.
Well, you posted, there's more interesting topic in that picture that you posted. This was your longest time to complete a game ever?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned that before. My longest
have you? Okay.
100% completion. When I say that, I mean, of course, all achievements, but also all achievements on the DLC. You know what I mean? So the game shows 100%. And it's funny, I started on the PC when it came out. I played it on PC. But then when I got my first Xbox around, I think it was early 2008, the first games I got.
I did not know you started on PC. How dare you?
Dirty PC player.
That's
Yeah, it was
terrible.
me. Oh, goodness. I had already played Oblivion there, and, I loved it because I had loved Morrowind. When I got the Xbox, I got Mass Effect, I got Oblivion, and I got the first Dragon Age, and I got Fable, which, funny thinking about it,
Damn, that's a good haul.
all four of those are in my top games of all time.
Yeah.
And they
Is
all...
that because they're the best games or because you're nostalgic for them, though?
That's the thing. Saying it out loud like that, it might be a little bit of both. It's strongly possible, but it's not just
those are
that.
all classic games.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But it's widely accepted that 2007 was one of the greatest years in gaming, as far as a lot of games coming out 2007, 2008. So when I picked up the Xbox 2008, I was able to get all of those and jump in. But so I started Oblivion back then in 2008, and I did not actually. I completed it in 2018 January, so it was about 9 years to get 100% achievements.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah, that's also 4 playthroughs, like 4 partial plays.
What if you were playing like 10 hours every day and it still took you that long?
Can you imagine? Who would I? You know what? I'd be your average Fallout 76 grinder, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how we play. Oh, we just got a pug in chat. I'm sorry. I got distracted. Lee dropping pugs in chat. Lee, how could you do that? Nothing like a pug.
The Lee drop just made the cat stand up and turn its head, and like it was in shock. Like, what is that sound?
That's brilliant. Like most of us playing Bethesda games, especially Elder Scrolls ones, Fallout, we tend to actually finish the quest a little more often. But the whole idea with Skyrim and Oblivion and Morrowind, to be fair, what main quest,
Yeah.
Like, we can ignore it. We can ignore finding Sean in Fallout 4. We can ignore finding Dad in Fallout 3 for a while. But ultimately, a lot of the quests take you there. Like all paths lead that way. All roads lead to New Vegas and getting stuff done. But when it comes to Elder Scrolls games, I completed the Fighters Guild and other guilds so many times, but I never did Dark Brotherhood until my 4th playthrough. And I never did the DLC for Shivering Isles until that playthrough. So I finally got those in and got all my lost achievements, cleaned it up. Oh, also all the, Daedric shrines and such.
Yeah, was that out of like, ooh, they're icky, they do bad things?
Yes.
Yeah.
I felt bad being a murderer.
Yeah, Dark Brotherhood especially, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, Thieves Guild I loved. I did them all the time. Like, if there's a character I play by default, it's usually a thief. I'm okay with stealing, but I'm not okay with cold-blooded murder.
No murder.
Yeah, I didn't want to be an assassin, but you know what? As I got older, I don't give a... So, no, I had to finally... Everybody's like, it's the best quest line. It's the best quest line. I'm like, I don't want to kill people.
That little boy who's whispering to the bones in his room or whatever, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's Aventus Arantino in Skyrim. Absolutely. I've still never done this full Skyrim Dark Brotherhood quest line. I have...
Do they have only those same 4 factions in all Elder Scrolls games?
There are other factions. Those are the kind of the archetypical factions. And there are others, especially in the earlier games. If you play ESO, of course, you can probably think of hundreds. But Skyrim, for instance, kind of redefined them. So you have the Fighters Guild in all the earlier games, but then you've got the companions. Right. And you have like the Mages Guild in all the earlier games, and now you have the College of Winterhold. So they're different. In Morrowind, for instance, instead of the regular Dark Brotherhood Thieves Guild situation, you had the Morag Tong. And the Morag Tong is the Tribunal's kind of dark brotherhood, the native assassins guild of Morrowind.
They wear those cool, like, black and red leathers, right?
You are an inspiration. Do you know that?
That's the Dark Brotherhood does the black and red leathers. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The Morag Tong.
What's the Morag Tong? What did they wear?
They like a lot of the Ashlander gear, so stuff made out of chitin, local stuff. They're very local. They're hipster assassins. They'll kill you, but they'll do it while wearing only locally sourced ingredients.
And a cool hat.
You gotta have a cool hat. Oh wow, that makes me sorry. We're all over the place with the Bethesda stuff. So played those two, and then of course I played a little more Avowed, but I'm slacking this week, Andrew. I know I got to get it done. I've now played 4 weeks of Avowed, about 15 hours a week. I played maybe 2 hours this week, so next week maybe.
I was looking at some videos of that game. It looks really cool. The graphics are really pretty.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous game. It's really pretty. They've been doing updates regularly too. We just got controller mapping finally, so now I can fix
nice.
Jump is on Y where it belongs, and crouch is on the stick where it belongs.
There you go.
Sorry, every game should have Bethesda control. They're the default.
All of this just works.
It makes Todd happy. But Avowed,
Keep Todd happy.
still loving it. The combat is good. The only reason I didn't play this week was because doing the other games, and also, as I mentioned before the show, I am kind of reformatting and redoing a lot of my streaming stuff. My hope is to get back to streaming a little more often again. I may not go to a regular weekly schedule like I had been, but You Wastelanders has been off the air for a year and a half officially now. I mean, obviously we've done like 3 or 4 theater shows. I've done Fallout for Hope events a couple times. I've done the C3 convention and panels, but that's not a regular schedule. But when I wanted to, say, jump on and stream something like Avowed or Dragon Age or other games I'm playing that aren't Fallout, because we were on hiatus and because we're a Fallout-focused channel, I felt a little bit, no, that's not what this channel is for. But I always planned on coming back after a break. My original thought was 6 months or so. Rest the channel, then I'll rebrand it, I'll rename it. It took a little bit longer. 2 reasons for that. First of all, I was a little bit burnt out after streaming straight for 3.5 years.
Yeah,
so
imagine.
much. You guys know, you guys could tell. And I needed that break. I had slowed down on things. Also, rebranding the name. So I wanted to be under my name. I have 2 Twitch accounts. The one that I watch and subscribe to people on was Jessica Star 77. The one that I broadcast on was You Wastelanders. You can't take a name that's already taken on Twitch, and just plain old Jessica Star, already taken. Rude. Hello, that's my name. You can't have it. But they did. And other combinations I thought of had been taken. And so kind of deciding on what's the right name I want to go under, plus just giving it a rest and some space in between what I used to do and what I'm going to do going forward. Well, I've decided I'm going to stream under Jessica Star XP now. If you're a gamer, if you're an RPG player, and it also looks kind of cool.
Jessica Star 1-up.
Yeah, I thought about 101 too, because I'm going to school you. But
that'd be cool.
Because of Vault 101, actually. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
First thing I think of when I see 101 is Fallout 3. First thing I think of when I see 111 is basically if I see any number under 122, I think about a vault. I don't know about you.
Yeah, me too, of course.
Except for...
Nice.
That's pretty much what I've been up to this week. A lot of my time that wasn't gaming was spent setting up some new stream stuff, changing over my OBS, getting new sound alerts set up, all that fun stuff. So how about you? I know we got some feedback to get into, so I want to hear about your gameplay first, and I'll give you a chance to talk.
Yeah, that Oblivion thing you were talking about, that's actually from Bethesda. That's not like people's personal project. That's real. Bethesda is actually doing that. The Oblivion remaster remake.
It's Remakester? Say it right?
Remakester.
Yes.
Remakester. That is an official Bethesda thing.
It's going to be official, but rumors have it that another studio, Virtua Studios, is working on it. So while they would have had a lot of input on it, it'll be another studio actually crafting it.
Oh, interesting.
And the Sky Oblivion project, which is the fan-made one, does still exist and should be out, they're saying, by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks awesome, too.
Did Todd's role change a lot when the Microsoft acquisition happened?
His role at Bethesda didn't change a lot with the Microsoft acquisition, except I think maybe in 2 ways. A lot of interviews with people who, over the last, say, 7-8 years, have left Bethesda for various reasons, moving on, retiring, and interviews. They've talked about how with the studio growing from 100 people when Skyrim released to, 400 when Fallout 76 came out to, I don't know what they're at now, 450 or so over the last while. Todd is just a little less available. So his role changed in that the studio's just grown so much. They've got locations in Dallas, in Austin, in the Rockville, Maryland, the original location, and then, of course, up in Montreal with BGS Montreal. So he's got 4 studios, a lot of places to be and talk to. And when something grows, your role changes. But the other thing that maybe affected a little bit was possibly with the passing of Robert Altman. I'm not sure, but I think, losing that leadership at ZeniMax, Bethesda, like the overall studio, might have changed some responsibilities too, you would think. But one good thing with Xbox is that Todd is still mostly just in charge of Bethesda Game Studios. They can take care of, Phil can do the other stuff. There's still a guy in charge.
And they're not, pulling marionette strings. They're kind of letting them operate as they used to.
As far as we know, yeah. Of course, there's always going to be some corporate overlord intervention. But at this point, as far as we know, Bethesda Game Studios is doing their thing. But Todd obviously worked on Indiana Jones, and he's also executive producer on the TV show. And so just naturally, things have gotten bigger and bigger. So the roles changed.
Yeah.
But
you just mentioned the TV show. I was seriously just about to ask, this TV show, this was not the first attempt to bring Fallout to the screen, correct? Were there other, previous sort of project, wasn't there a Fallout movie pitch or something
there were
way back
multiple
in the day?
pitches. Yeah, Todd has mentioned that multiple studios, production companies brought him ideas, but they never accepted them. None of the past ideas ever got close to being made until this one with Jonathan Nolan. And
what changed? The writing was just better. They just finally nailed it.
Yeah, I think they could see eye to eye. I think Todd liked the pitch.
Cool. I was just bored the other day and flipped the show on just to have something on in the background while I'm doing other things, and then quickly realized that I stopped doing the other thing. I was just sitting watching the show again.
I mean, that's a good show, right? It can pull you in every time.
It does, every damn time. Lucy's just so darn charming.
She is. She's okie dokie.
And just seeing this new Ghoul content, I can see it nodding back towards the TV show a little bit too.
They definitely are, right? With the Ghoul content.
The Fix or whatever that's called, that kind of seems like maybe the same sort of thing that the Ghoul was huffing. And
I talked about that leading in. That I don't want them to retroactively change how ghouls work, but bringing that in, that is definitely a nod to the show. The idea that ghouls are taking chems to keep their humanity, to not go fully feral, and the Fix itself.
And we just thought that they just took chems just to have a good time,
right?
But
because they're
preventing feral from setting in. Come on.
I think in the case of ghouls like Hancock, that's definitely the case. But, if it's kind of like if you get a really high tolerance, if a ghoul can handle more chems without it really affecting them the same, the whole idea of if you have to drink a lot more to get drunk, you have to take a lot more to feel something. It makes sense that some ghouls could do that. But that really wasn't something that they put in the games much, as far as I know of, until, of course, with Hancock. That was just his personality. And then the ghoul has that too in the show.
Not necessarily a ghoul thing. It's just that their bodies can take the damage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they handle things differently. Exactly.
I think Keith Richards might be a ghoul. Is Keith Richards a ghoul?
Keith Richards is definitely a ghoul. And I hope he keeps taking those drugs to keep his humanity. I don't want a feral Keith Richards out there.
Yes, exactly. Let's see. Other gameplay. Let's see. I did some Fallout Shelter, and I'm finally getting to the point where I got a few good weapons in my new survival vault, to the point where I can take down most attacks and everything. I'm not really losing a lot of people and many battles anymore. And in fact, I was getting, the daily objectives. There was one that was stop 12 mole rat infestations before they spread, and you get a Mr. Handy robot. And I'm like, oh shit, that's great. I need one of those.
I would do anything for a Mr. Handy. You know how that is. Yeah, they're the best.
They are the best. And so I was sitting there hoping that the rushing would fail, but I was just taking one room and just rushing them over and over. See their happiness levels dropping consistently as I'm making them rush over and over and over again. But I finally got the mole rat attacks taken care of. It was funny because I had enough good weapons on them that as the first mole rat was sticking his nose up out of the ground, They were all falling. Finally, the only thing that is a danger anymore is the fires, because it's not like you can upgrade your fire extinguisher. The only way to do that is to add more people to the room. You can't. I wish you could upgrade that extinguisher. Hey, man, that's a good idea. Come on,
Yeah,
get with it.
level 2 extinguisher. That would be awesome.
Because the fires really are the only real danger to me anymore until like the Deathclaw starts spawning when I get 50 dwellers. I'm at like 38 or so right now on that one. But, always having a good time with Shelter. Let's see, what else did I play? We mentioned the ghoul stuff a little bit. I didn't know. I went ahead and did the whole, like, I thought it was going to be this huge quest line. It only turned out to be like a quest and a half, basically. I took an old roundtable character, did that stuff. I didn't want to mess up my new roundtable character or like my main, 76 character. King, if you remember, King is now a ghoul.
Yeah, I remember King for sure, right, with the torch beast ears.
Yeah, so I went through that stuff. We can get into that a little bit.
So, Andrew, sorry, I've got to stop and I've got to break in here.
Yeah.
Have you moved? Like, are you in a different location or something for the last 5 minutes or so? Because you were breaking up a lot more.
No, but weather might be coming in. I've not moved, but weather might be moving in.
Okay.
So I don't know if we need to transition to feedback or something for a little bit, maybe. Concentrate on feedback and cut it short or whatever.
Feedback this week. You should be able to listen to that fine, right? Am I breaking up for you at all, Andrew?
No, you sound great.
Okay. Then feedback this week, we've got feedback coming in from Sulior, from Will, from Stratoblaster, and from Lee. So let's jump in, and we're going to start with Sulior's feedback. Of course, Sulior and Pyro. We'll see who we actually hear from this week.
What's up, everyone? This is Pyro Anderson along with the other guy. And I gotta say, I'm getting kind of comfortable in this guy's house.
Trust me, I know. You're leaving your beer bottles and used blunts all over the place.
Those are souvenirs. Trust me, you'll miss me when I'm gone.
I don't know about that.
Anyway, after the hell I went through to get to this place, I wasn't exactly looking forward to lending a helping hand to these people. But whatever. And I gotta say, why the hell is everyone in this vault so fucking rude? I go talk to Oberlin like Hugo asked me to, and he had an attitude. Acted like he had no time for me whatsoever and was just trying to do everything he could to get rid of me. He directs me to talk to 3 ghouls that are down in this atrium area. And even as I walk up to them to offer my help, one of them talks about how rude I am for eavesdropping. Hadn't even been there 2 seconds yet. So these 3 ghouls all have their own tasks that they want you to do because apparently they can't do them themselves. The first one was finding some ghoul named Alfie that apparently had gone feral. Easy enough. Killed plenty of feral ghouls in my time, so this wasn't a big deal. Hardest part was finding his key card, but it was right there where this red toolbox was, directly under a light, so it's almost like they were telling you where it was. Enter the room and he's on the other side. One shot did the trick. Poor guy. I read his journal. He knew what was going on. That's gotta be the worst. The next part was finding what was going on in this generator room. Apparently there were some noises in there. Thing that got me about this is they're all ghouls, right? They're immune to radiation. Why the hell couldn't they check this out themselves? I, for one, am not a ghoul, although I do have this lucky perk called Wet Rats that gets rid of my radiation, but still, not happy. They could have done this shit themselves. Turned out it was a bunch of rad roaches and some pipes that burst. That was pretty easy. Really, they could have done that themselves. And the final thing on the honeydew list is to eliminate a bunch of rad rats. Again, I don't know why they couldn't do this themselves. Rad rats are one of the easiest enemies to get rid of, next to the rad roaches. One thing I will say, though, is that I wish that they had crafting benches here in the atrium where those ghouls were that gave me these quests. I picked up so much stuff that I wish I could just scrap it right then and there, but no. They do have crafting benches in this vault, they're just not the easiest to find. After telling Oberlin that I was done babysitting the people in the vault, I went back and talked to Hugo. He was looking for this key that's for this safe that was within arm's reach of where he was sitting. Okay. So, in order to find the key, I need to figure out where Cassie put it. So, searching through Hugo and Cassie's room, I found Cassie's journal, and it mentions this hidden area behind a waterfall. At first, the door didn't want to open, but I figured maybe hitting it will do the trick. Couple of bashes with my gun didn't do it, but shooting it did. Funny, I don't know why. And inside, I find Cassie herself, who seems to be in a coma. She is also a lost like Hugo, but there's not much there. And she actually had the key on her body. After I take the key, Hugo comes in and starts screaming at me, telling me to back away from her. And I'm like, dude, do you want the fucking key or not? That's what he asked me to get. And we argued for a little bit, but he calmed down. And so he wanted me to go grab the blueprints out of the safe in his office. No problem. Run up there, and after I grab the blueprints, I just happen to see that he has his journal in there as well. I take a quick peek, and it turns out that he called a hit on a couple of people. Who does that? Hiring hitmen. Whatever. Somebody must have really pissed him off. I take the blueprints back to him in front of the waterfall and mention that, and he yells at me, telling me to mind my own business, but, yeah, whatever. I'm not scared of him. Then he starts spouting some bullshit about replacing parts on a ship. If you replace enough parts, is it a new ship? What? Is he planning on doing this with people too? That's kind of the impression that I got. Really weird. But he wanted me to take these blueprints to this weather station on the clear other end of the Skyline Valley area. On the way there, I ran into a few groups of enemies, including super mutants, and then also a freaking Scorch Beast. What are Scorch Beasts doing down here? Anyway, made my way there and had to deal with a few robo-brains, but they weren't too bad. Got inside and went up to the lab, and Audrey starts screaming at me, wondering who the hell I am also. These people have no manners. Once I told her who I was and what I was doing there, she wanted me to go find this part for the weather station that she needed. Gotta say, I'm getting a little tired being everybody's errand boy. So the part that's needed is at the Skyline Valley Welcome Center. Go inside and I meet this guy named Kevin who's about ready to crap himself. He thought I was there to kill him. He's all like, oh no, don't kill me. Yeah, okay. So he says that he has the part that's needed, but he locked himself out of where it is. He lives there and he's been there apparently since before the bombs dropped. So the area that he's locked out of now is apparently occupied by a bunch of weirdos. This guy's pretty weird himself, and he's calling them weirdos. Alright. So there's another way down there, so we go underneath in this tunnel, and it turns out it was Mothman cultists. Here's where the fun starts. So he wants me to kill them all. On my way there, though, there were some rad roaches and mole rats. Those aren't a big deal, but apparently they are to him, because he can't even handle his own shadow. Took care of everything, no problem, and he gets me the part I need. I gotta say, though, this guy has a lot of empty beer bottles in his area, and I'm all for that. So I take the part back to Audrey, and she has me install it, because of course I know what the hell I'm doing with this thing. And as soon as I do, Hugo comes in. Apparently his wife has been kidnapped by the leader of this cult, who just happens to be the person he put a hit on. Oh, by the way, this person is also a very close friend of his daughter Audrey. Coincidence? I don't think so. So it turns out that Hugo tried to get rid of Alex because he thought that she was a bad influence on Audrey. She was a hindrance on the family business and needed to be eliminated. Again, this guy's a freaking mob boss. I don't know who else thinks and acts like this. Oh, I gotta kill this person because the family business needs to succeed, and it won't do this but if they're in the way. I gotta take care of them, and I don't care who dies. Oh, by the way, screw my daughter's happiness as long as the family business is flourishing. She'll come around. I know she will. She'll see what's best for business. God, these people. I swear. So, Hugo is wanting me to infiltrate this cult and eliminate them. So, I'm the one who's going to be doing the hit now. But we'll save that for next time. So, until then, hey, why don't you come wrap this up?
So now I'm the person doing your honeydew list.
All right, fine. So yeah, there's really not a whole lot for me to say after this. There wasn't much. It was just a lot of small quest talking and soap opera drama. But I do want to point out that it was really cool hearing Wes Johnson voicing Kevin. He's done a few voices in Fallout 76, like the robots and mainly the Protectrons, and he's done a few other random voices. But this was very clearly Wes Johnson's, for the lack of a better phrase, normal voice. Mostly. So yeah, that was nice. Definitely looking forward to seeing more action in the next few quests. And I am going to be running around more with my ghoul character, because by the time this comes out, I will have ghoulified him. So anyway, until next time, I will see everybody in the wasteland.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you, Solior. I like the little fun fact at the end there, the tidbit about Wes Johnson doing a voice here.
I know that he is very in tune with voice actors in video games, so I don't follow that at all. I wouldn't be able to tell who's Wes Johnson.
He's done characters. He's Mo Cronin. We've talked about it a bit. Mo Cronin, a lot of the Protectrons.
As soon as you remind me and then I hear his voice, I'm like, oh, that guy.
Yeah, exactly. But so Wes Johnson in 76, he has been all over as a lot of the Protectrons. Everyone from Mr. Fluffy to all the vendor bots to, a lot of the robots at Fashnacht, of course.
Wow, that's funny.
Oh, and Insult Bot. I think maybe his most notorious role in 76 would be Insult Bot.
So what about his voice makes him a good robot?
He's just got a really wide range, and he's done so many characters over the years that I think when they needed Protectrons, he stepped up to do that, I believe he did Protectrons in previous games too. In Fallout 4, he did Protectrons there, Drinking Buddy, all of them. So definitely. And he's done some Sentry Bots.
I forgot about Drinking Buddy. That's hilarious.
I'm sorry. You remember that quest. I love that one, right? You got to get a cold one.
Forever.
The best. All the Protectrons in 76 are pretty much him. But he is also Kevin Harris, finally. And I think he did Dell. I think he's the voice of Dell in Nuka World on Tour. So he's always slipping in a voice here and there. If you hear someone and you're like, I feel like I recognize that voice, but I don't quite recognize it, I think there's a better than 50-50 chance it could be Wes.
It's Wes.
So taking a listen to his feedback, let's see. What did Pyro bring up on this one?
I like that he complained about being an errand boy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, that's what video games are. You are the errand boy. You are the person who does stuff.
Yeah, hero is just another name for errand boy, for sure. Yes. A lot of these talk about a honey-do list. But yeah, so he mentioned first about what rads, about how he's not a ghoul, but he's got what rads, and that's kind of cool. Fourth wall breaking from Pyro there. Also, he mentioned Alfie. I didn't say this last week, but that's another kind of English name, isn't it? Alfie isn't really a nickname you hear around.
No. Really. It's people shorten it to Al here.
Mm-hmm.
Not Alfie. Yeah, that's very British, right?
But he's also right about the Stoltz family. both Hugo and Audrey. I mean, they're a little bit abrupt. They're kind of rude.
Oh, yeah. He was like, hey, go find this key. And when you find the key, he's like, what the fuck are you
doing? Comes in yelling, what are you doing here? Yeah. He's like, dude, you told me to do this. And same with Audrey. He's, bringing this stuff to her. And I mean, I got to say, Pyro's handling it pretty well. I'm surprised he hasn't just reached out and cocked any of them. I feel like he's getting a little bit more controlled as he levels up. He's maturing.
Yeah, he should have popped her one.
But the whole mob boss, I mean, the way that he's developed as a character is very much the whole manipulative overseer is what we're getting from Hugo. Mm-hmm. The pulling strings and orchestrating machinations and that, and his family just as much as anyone else. Audrey herself says, sometimes I feel more like an employee than a daughter when you're talking to her. And that's definitely part of his character. So I can see that the way that Pyro's context, the whole mob boss thing, that makes sense. But I think of him as the Machiavellian overseer. And we're going to find out soon just how deep those plans run, I think, because we've only got a few more quests left.
Gosh, I'm just blanking. Machiavellian's watching, just shaking the snow globe and fucking stuff up just to watch fucked up stuff happen.
No, Machiavellian is more like planned plotting, semi-sinister plotting, where you put all these pieces in motion, but ultimately you're the puppet master.
Chaos is not a pit, it's a ladder.
What is that quote from?
That's a Game of Thrones thing.
That's really good. So let's see. What else did he mention? I think that about covers it. I liked his comments about Kevin calling other people weirdos too. Kevin, I don't know. He's a good dude. He's been alone too long, I think. And it is pretty funny. He's there in his ranger outfit and his socks are pulled up to his calves. Quite the outfit.
It's very cute. That's good. Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's jump in. Next, we're going to get some feedback coming in from Will. Hey, Will.
Hello, Fallout friends. Will here to talk about the latest roundtable quest with my character, Danger. Although I almost didn't send any in because I felt like there wasn't really too much to add with these. But I figured since, I missed last week, I would just send something. But mostly, yeah, these are very, very straightforward and hardly any combat. You guys talked about on the show some. I didn't know if I would have too much to add that's different from just saying how you're supposed to run the quest. I met Hugo, who needs my help, and, the blueprint for the malfunctioning weather machine. And, of course, I searched Cassie's room. I saw that, read her journal, and they had that one thing in there just about her daughter and Hugo she didn't like the solution he had for her, which I didn't know what that meant at the time. Later on, I guess that meant he had tried to off Alexa? Was that her name? Alex.
Audrey?
But her diary led us to the waterfall back there. That was her sanctuary. So, of course, I went in there. You guys were talking about not being able to find the button. I wasn't looking for a button, but when I saw that broken fuse box, I was thinking I needed to find a fuse. So I wasted a little time looking around for a fuse.
Whoops.
After I find her and Hugo comes running in, I just tell him about the blueprints. He asked if there's anything else he discovered. I figured Danger he's just the dude that follows the rules, does what he has to do, gets things done, as I said. So he's like, I'm here to get paid, not to meddle in your business yet. And that's when he went on his little diatribe about the boat, and Danger had the option for low intelligence if you have one or less, and he's like, boat? You got a boat? What kind of boat? Where's the boat at? Some silly stuff. Hugo's a little annoyed, but that was it. So I went on over there to meet Audrey. I just followed that road west since it was on that road. And again, not much to shoot there. I ran across a grand total of 1 lost, 3 thrashers, and 2 robo-brains before I got in there to meet Audrey. She was sort of dismissive of me, or Danger, as, he was just a minion to be played with or whatever, which I guess, Danger actually doesn't even mind that too much. But she sends Danger on over to the Shenandoah Visitors Center. Nothing eventful along the way, although once he gets there, he meets what might be my favorite character in Fallout 76, I think. I love me some Kevin. He was a fun little guy, I thought. He sends us down there, kill a couple of rad roaches, a couple of mole rats. You go to that room, and none of the cultists even move when you open that door. So I just did what Ray did, threw a couple of grenades, picked the rest off with my laser rifle, and done. Kevin escorts me to his little bachelor's bunker there, and I grabbed the part and back to Audrey, where I mentioned that I had to kill some cultists. She didn't know of any cults around there. I think, yeah, and, praying some Mothman or something, and someone named Alex, and then she seemed a little bit shocked like that, as if she knew that person before. And that's where that quest ends. You get a legendary weapon, looks like some kind of furious railway rifle. And yeah, I had it there too, where Hugo comes running in and it sort of ushers you straight into the beginning of the next quest. I didn't know if I should just try to exit real quick. Hopefully they would let me revisit that scene when I logged on again, but I didn't want to accidentally lose it, so I just sat there and watched it and actually recorded the last few minutes of video play so I could refresh myself when I get to do the next quest. But then I went all the way back over there to the house. I think this time the Thrashers were back out. Or no, the Thrashers were there when I came back out of the visitor center. So those were the only other things I had to beat. And then there was nothing again when I went back over to the house, where Oberlin sends you on those 3 really, really just meaningless quests. I don't know. It's just, went down, killed the rad rats that they didn't know about, patched up a couple of pipes, and took out poor Alfie there. But they were happy, and Margaret said he would put in a good word for me with Oberlin, which I guess that's really the point of the quest. You're supposed to prove yourself, and you get in good with them. So like I said, there wasn't really a lot of, I felt like, deviation and much to contribute as far as different way of doing the quests and things. The only thing that really was different was that the fact that they came out with the new patch with the ghouls for 76 this week, and they changed some things up with that. We switched up the perk point card, or the cards, how much, the stars on the cards, how much they do. And I had a bunch of extra stars again. Like one of the ones they switched was bodyguards, which I always use anyways. I think that's only 1 star now. And I was all happy at the beginning of this round table because I was sharing rank 4 bodyguards. I was like, yeah, I was assigned 15 charisma. So I was excited that I got to share a high level card, and I couldn't really find one that was ranked 5 that I wanted to share. That would have been fun, but bodyguards at 4 was fun for me for a while. But now they switched it to rank 1, and I'm just sharing a rank 1 card, and I got 15 charisma. And one of the other cards they switched is they swapped around, what was it, Life Giver and all that stuff, but also Lone Wanderer. That I think they made it more useful. Like, I just logged in. When I first logged in, I looked and I was curious before I joined the team, and my damage resistance was at 534. And then, but that was just with the Lone Wanderer card. And I was like, okay, well, I wonder what it's going to be with the bodyguard. So I joined the team, and it went up to 535. So they seem fairly equivalent. Like, there's no real loss for not being on a team anymore. And then nice. A little bit later, I happened to notice again, like when I was single, I'd logged out, logged back in again, and my DR was at 615. I was like, I wonder what it is now. I think I had some soups or something working for me at this point. And so I went to join another team, except this one wasn't quite a full team. So there were only 3 of us, so it went from 615 and dropped down to 608 from joining the team. So those are pretty equivalent, and so far really the only major differences I've had in this game. A lot more to see. We'll see what happens next week. So, like I said, not too much to dive into deeply there, but I still had fun with these, even though this one wasn't too difficult. I had not done these with my main characters. I thought about doing what Steve did and do it with my main, since I hadn't done them, but I actually, with a lower level character, I figured it would be more fun to experience them for the first time with that, rather than just being able to go and one-shot everything through them. But that is it for me. See you in the wasteland.
I can't kill stuff now. High level, the low level. Jesus, Will. Well, good luck then. I need to do more research like him and to see what perks have changed. I think it sucks, Will, that you were so proud of being able to share a high level card, and then they took that honor away from you. Oh, slap in the face.
That right. You're risen it with a 15. You're like, yeah, big man on campus. I'm sharing this perk card, and now it's only a 1.
Oh, that stinks.
It's kind of like when you have the best headwear in the wasteland, a beret, and then suddenly everybody devalues it for whatever reason. The game suddenly makes it not worth as much, and you're like, no, this will not stand.
And you see them in the garbage.
Exactly. But yeah, there have been some interesting changes to perk cards. And while that was a while ago, we're still reevaluating. And now with the whole ghoul update, there are even more things coming down, all the new perks, people evaluating it. So going over his feedback, let's see. So he said he didn't have a lot to talk about, but I think he hit a lot, don't you?
Yeah, he hit a lot of good points.
First of all, I apologize for him setting off everyone's ALEXA. He didn't mean to do that. Oh, let's see. What else? Oh, he got stuck at the same spot we all did. Well, a lot of us did, where the game tells you this is damaged. It looks like it might come apart with a single hit or something. Yeah. We're all looking for buttons. We're looking for switches. Will was looking for a fuse. Good choice, Will.
Yep. Makes sense.
I think something like that is actually a very realistic kind of stumbling block in the game, because you get frustrated enough that you punch it. You just stupid thing, and you shoot it anyway, and that's what it takes to open it. So
and you're like, oh, I knew that would happen.
Yes.
I meant to do that.
I was just taking my time because I didn't want to be violent. Comment on Kevin, too. A fun little guy. I agree. He might be a little weird.
Favorite character in 76. That's an interesting topic,
Did he say that about Kevin?
Yeah, he said it might be his favorite character in 76.
I definitely thought he was a fun little guy, but favorite. that is a high honors, honestly.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in our group Rose a lot.
I mean, I think a lot of people in our group also don't like Rose a lot.
Yeah, she's that woman you hate to love or love to hate, one of the two.
Yeah, she's very, very divisive. Also, let's see, he ran into
Also not a woman, also a robot.
Yes, also a robot. Yeah, but honestly, I mean, I like Rose's personality a lot. I think she's fun. He ran into Thrashers, which is cool. I'm glad someone else ran into Thrashers.
Turkeys.
On there. Did you have any other comments on the feedback, Andrew?
I think that was good. Thank you, Will.
Yeah, thanks for adding your perspective to it. It's good to hear how everyone else tackled it. I mean, the quest might not have a whole lot of variation, but still, we end up doing things a little bit differently along the way.
Yep. I like this low intelligence option.
Speaking of doing things differently, next up, we have Stratoblaster coming in with Isaiah. Let's see how, another scientist handles some of these quests and how he deals with Hugo.
The Chronicles of Isaiah Pollux, Part 7. I have a problem and I don't know what to do. I've spent my entire above-ground time post-war traveling the wastes, eliminating this threat and that, collecting every scrap of useful material I could lay my hands on, and using all of my combined experiences to do what I thought was going to return my little piece of the world back to the way it was before the bombs dropped. The one thing that seems to be preventing my efforts from having any effect whatsoever is the absolute apathy that almost every person I have met with regards to trying to change things for the better. The general majority of these wretched wasteland wanderers feel that there is no going back and that this new reality is the new normal. There is nowhere more evident of this than the malaise I've seen here at Vault 63. The people here, nothing more than sentient monsters awaiting their inevitable fall from grace into madness, seem to be perfectly content with their lot in life. They are burned and scarred beyond all recognition as they race headlong into the abyss of violence and bloodthirstiness. They don't comprehend that the decline is inescapable, or that none of them are immune to the vicious and painful descent. I struggle every day with the decision to work with them, to live beside these ghouls, knowing what their ultimate fate will be. Is it right to continue to let them go on, or would it be better to accelerate the inevitable and put them all out of their misery? It may sound selfish or even bigoted, but at this point, are they even human anymore? Sometimes I wonder when I am alone on the surface and it's quiet, what goes through the mind when one becomes ghoulified. What is the mental process that occurs as one's skin becomes brittle and hard and when facial features eventually fall away, leaving open orifices where noses and ears used to be? The level of denial and fear must be overwhelming, but to then come to terms with the transformation must be an excruciating journey. I do not understand how they have hope. I do not understand how they live their day-to-day lives, knowing that they will essentially live forever, and know in their heart of hearts that they will never be normal again. I do not envy them their journey. I do not envy mine either. I have traveled alongside them, lived with them, and watched them devolve into feral monstrosities. I have been blasted by radiation to the point of sickness. I have consumed many of the chems the ghouls themselves now use to prolong their very sanity. The radiation permeates and affects us all, and I can only pray that it never happens to me. Isaiah Pollux. After my discussion with Stoltz about the current situation in Vault 63 and reluctantly offering my services as the dutiful Vault Tech soldier that I am, he tasked me with revisiting Chief Oberlin and performing a few errands in order to help out and familiarize myself with the Vault. We also spoke about retrieving the blueprints for his weather device. They are securely stored somewhere, and I will need to track down the key that his wife Cassidy has hidden. Hugo apparently lacks any trust in the residents of the vault, and since he is blind, cannot look for it himself. Where should I look for this key? I questioned with a confused look on my face. I am certain my dear Cassidy will have left some clues as to whereabouts of the key, he replied, looking forlorn and saddened at the mention of her name. She was always writing things down and keeping notes. You can start by looking in our quarters upstairs. Nodding my agreement, I turned and left the office, and I headed upstairs to Stoltz's quarters. Upon entering the room, I began a search for anything that might lead me in the right direction. There was a note about some party, and another note written to Hugo. I couldn't help but read both, knowing the personal nature of the notes, needing to understand more about this enigmatic overseer. Finally, I found Cassidy's journal tucked away in the coffee table. Cassidy seemed to be a very thoughtful woman and a dutiful, loving wife, a seemingly odd match for the likes of Hugo Stoltz, but not completely out of the question, I mused as I looked for something in the text that I could use to locate the key. After a couple of pages, Cassidy mentioned that she'd kept the key on her person in a locket she wore around her neck. "Where are you, Cassidy?" I whispered as I read on. She mentioned a place within the vault where she felt safe and described it as a waterfall. "Ha! Gotcha!" I exclaimed as the location she named I had seen while roaming around in the vault. Apparently there was a passage hidden behind, and I quickly turned and headed that way. I moved through the cavern to find a hidden chamber locked behind a door controlled by a panel on the wall. It didn't work at first, and I was able to work it open with my combat knife, hitting it more than once after an unsuccessful attempt or two. Within was a small examination room with medical equipment and terminals. I at once saw a lone patient, a woman, who I assumed was Cassidy, lying there in what seemed like a catatonic or comatose state. I approached her as quietly as I could not to disturb her, and began to remove the key from her locket around her neck. As soon as I had retrieved the key, Stoltz was behind me, berating me for being in the room and disturbing his unconscious spouse. I immediately and reactively drew my sidearm, pointing it directly into his face. "Don't ever sneak up on me like that," I barked. "You don't know me. I would just as soon drop you where you stand, you wrinkly fuck. I was just doing what you told me to do." He lifted his hands in a calming motion, and his tone relaxed. "She is merely in a deep slumber and has been since the incident. She requires privacy and quiet," he explained once he had calmed down. I holstered my pistol and listened as he explained how repairing the weather machine would assist in her recovery, and that was why he needed the blueprints and my help. He directed me back to his office to retrieve the plans and then returned to him when I was finished. Upon returning, we spoke about the plans and how they would need to be delivered to Audrey, and then had a brief conversation about how many pieces can be replaced on something before it becomes something different. My old philosophy lessons paid off as I was able to understand his reference to the ship of Theseus and how it pertained to his wife, the machine, and everything else that was going on around here. Once we concluded our discussion, I immediately started out for the Hawksbill weather station to deliver the prints. When I arrived, the place was in a serious, bad way. Whatever happened down here must have had a giant impact on the station. I was able to evade a couple of roaming robo-brain sentries and went inside. I had no problems finding Audrey, and I handed her the blueprints. We spoke for a time about her experiences so far, and it seemed to me she had suffered some loss that was affecting her deeply, something about somebody named Alex. The way she spoke and the way her voice trembled at times led me to believe that her loss was felt more profoundly than anyone else's that I had met so far from Vault 63. After a long moment, she asked me to retrieve a piece of equipment she needed from the Shenandoah Visitor Center. "Just what I need. Another long walk to retrieve another trinket," I said under my breath. She obviously heard me, and she exclaimed that the mechanism was crucial to the machine's functionality and was not just some Watts Consumer Electronics gizmo, but an unique and very technical piece of kit. "Fine, I'll go get it," I said, and I turned to leave. The walk to the visitor center was fairly uneventful, thankfully, and when I arrived, I could see a low light of a candle burning inside. This is where I meet Kevin. Honestly, I was shocked after speaking to him that he had managed to live this long. He told me the part that I was seeking was in his bunker, but he had locked himself out due to the building being infested with cultists, and that if I could go and get them to leave. If I did so, he would gladly give it to me. "Sure, no problem. I'll get him out of here." I snuck around into a darkened hallway and peeked around the corner. Now, I don't like cultists. These guys are weird. There were about 6 or 7 of them, and they were armed, but they were all praying or chanting or doing something stupid and oblivious to my presence. Checking my rifle, confirming I had a full mag, I barged in, weapons hot. I dropped at least 3 of them before they even knew what was happening, and 2 more as they tried to evade my assault. The last 2 were cagey, running for cover while reloading, but I was able to gain an advantage on one, putting a slug in his head. It was soon after that the other fighter, obviously lacking in any kind of close-quarters combat skills, was sent to the light to join his pals. Kevin came running in later, thanking me and quickly putting in his code and opened the door to his bunker. The corridor wasn't very long, and there were some creepy crawlies about which were easily dispatched, and then we entered his bunker. It was quite clear that Kevin was not in a good place emotionally. His bunker looked like that of a soon-to-be serial killer, and once I had the component in my hand, I left quickly without any long conversations. I probably should have put him down with the rest of the cultists. That would have been the merciful thing to do for that poor wretch. I don't know. He's made it this far. Maybe he's got something up his sleeve. Whatever. After returning to Audrey later that day, she asked me to help with the installation of the part into the console a few rooms away. She made it worth my while, though, which was nice. No one has given me a damn thing for all this work I've done. At least she recognized my efforts and rewarded me for my fine work, even if my attitude was shitty. It's a pretty red gun. Ooh, it packed quite a punch, too. So we'll have to see what we can put that to good use later.
Nice.
I had to return to Vault 63 to resupply, and I was very curious about what the security chief needed from me. I recalled as almost an afterthought that he had an errand he needed me to attend to, and I felt a little bad that I'd forgotten. He had asked me to speak to some of the dwellers about some chores that needed to be done, but of course the slackers would never do them, so he requested that I get things handled. I spoke to Margaret first, and she informed me about some trouble in the lower levels of the vault. Some pests had infested one area, and none of them could or wanted to exterminate them. There was also some repair work that needed to be done, and again, nobody really wanted to do it. Finally, after Julio and Lawrence told me the sad story of their friend Alfie, who had turned feral and had asked to be locked away in his room. What a stand-up bunch of friends these are, and a great way to treat a buddy. I was obviously going to have to go down there and clean up all this mess and probably not receive so much as a thank you or a pat on the back. But, again, I need to gain Oberlin's trust, so off I went. The rad rats were my first obstacle, as they blocked the way to the cooling chambers where the repairs were needed. They all went down easily enough. The cooling chamber, however, was a different story. It was blistering hot, and my Pip-Boy clicked loudly from all the radiation. Great. I'm going to end up just like them. A few minutes, though, and I was able to fix all the pipes, and the room immediately cooled. Now it was time to pay Alfie a visit and see what kind of condition this poor fool was in. I was met with a locked door that required a key card, which the morons upstairs did not tell me about. After several minutes of searching around, I finally found a key card, and God, I hoped it was the right one. Sure enough it was, and I opened the door and moved into the chamber where I found Alfie. Old boy was not in good shape. He had turned completely feral, and any sign of who he may have been was long gone. According to a note I found, he had been down here for quite some time, and none of his jackass friends could bear to come down here and end his suffering. A few well-placed .45 rounds from my sidearm took the surprise ghoul down and ended his misery. I returned to the group, who hadn't even gotten up or moved in the hour or so I had been gone. I told them the errands had been completed, and I was shocked that they didn't even so much as blink an eye. If the rest of the ghouls in this vault are this lazy, then Oberlin and Stoltz are really screwed. I'm sure they had more to say, but I was so disgusted by them, I just made my way back to Oberlin. Reaching his office, I told him about the trio of dipshits, the completion of the assigned tasks, and the merciful euthanizing of poor Alfie. And if I could read his thoughts on his face, which I could not, I would guess he was as disgusted as I was. He then told me about another task he would like me to take on, going to find Hilda and bringing her back to Vault 63, doing whatever it took to get her to come with me. I looked the man straight in the eye. I am tired. I need a bed. I need some food. And after a short sigh, I told him, I'll head out after I sleep and after I eat. Let's talk again tomorrow.
That was fantastic. You know, I love that Isaiah is not afraid to call people out on their bullshit. Like, his point of view, the way that Sean kind of puts it forward, is actually, I think, in the back of a lot of our heads. The idea that they have not moved, he's doing this for the residents, and they have not moved in the 2 hours he's been down there or whatever. They are lazy asses. He was disgusted. The other people in charge should be disgusted. He gives the people in charge a little bit of grace there, though, you know, with Oberlin saying, hey, I'm sorry you have to put up with this. But then Oberlin sends them on another task. I do want to mention at the beginning, actually, talking about rad rats at the end made me miss Ray tonight.
No.
Do you remember?
Rad Rat Ray.
Rad Rat Ray. Back in the day on the Fallout Terminal Velocities, we used to give everybody alliterative nicknames. I'm trying to think. Did you have one? Was it like Atomic Andrew, probably?
Yeah, probably. I would assume.
It was goofy. I love it. But Rad Rat Ray, because he loves those little rad rats.
What was yours? What was Jess?
I don't remember. We had a lot of alliterative nicknames, but I do not remember mine. So at the beginning of his feedback there, the deep thoughts on ghouls, I thought that was a great way to start it off, Sean. You know,
I jotted down. Do you think it's painful turning into a ghoul or anything? You do?
Yeah, there's actually been talk about that. Some different ghouls might experience it differently. feeling like your skin's on pins and needles all the time till you get used to it and it just kind of, fades to the background.
Okay.
Becoming a ghoul could be painful. The actual skin, until the nerve endings die, if they do, it's gonna be very uncomfortable. And the rotting situation, depending on the type of ghoul, like some ghouls petrify more, other ghouls rot. If you look at like Fallout 3 ghouls and some of the early ghouls in the first Fallout games.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, they look more rotten. The ones in Fallout 4 look more petrified, preserved.
He's in chat and says they're stinky too. He says they're probably stinky AF.
You're gonna look at them and smell them.
But the deep thoughts from Isaiah as a character, like, are they even human anymore? What do they feel? What do they think? Would I be doing a mercy putting them down? The fact that we've got all these ghouls now in the world around us in 76, these are thoughts that should be on everyone's mind.
Yeah.
In the lore more. I've said it before. I do think that ghouls are such an important part of Fallout lore that we can't take them too casually. The fact we can all become ghouls as a player mechanic, okay, that's fun, that's funny. Kind of like getting a water slide in the atomic shop. Like, it may not happen quite so casually, quite so fun. But I'm glad, to actually stop and think about what it would mean. And one thing I will say, without spoiling the quest line, to become a ghoul, is they do address that some. The characters you meet there, even if it is short, they do talk about it a good bit. Let's see. I like that he doesn't put up with Hugo. The fact that when Hugo rushed in on him and he pulled a gun and he said, "Do not ever sneak up on me like that." That was
I will drop you.
I will drop you. Exactly. That was a good reaction. It makes sense. Like, none of us liked how Hugo came in there. Also, I didn't mention this, but when Celior was talking about that moment too, and he made the observation that I don't think we ever really talked about last week, that it does seem like he's talking about replacing a person's body parts or who a person is. Do you think he's talking about mentally rebuilding his wife or physically rebuilding? Is Frankenstein like a Ship of Theseus allegory in a way? I don't know.
Could be.
Food for thought, but I do wonder exactly what Hugo was up to with his wife there. See, I like the way he rushed in, putting down the cultists, and we are getting so many different opinions on Kevin. Because he's like, Kevin, I should put that poor wretch out of his misery too. But
Will was like, no.
Exactly. It's just funny. Characters like that are part of the fabric of the wasteland. Part of what we like about Fallout is those unique characters and just the way they come through. So that's a shout out for the acting there that kind of make us have all these feelings about Kevin.
Polarizing Kevin.
Exactly. Also, good job, Audrey, recognizing his work. It's true. We do not get enough rewards for doing the wasteland. yes. Okay, we get quest ending.
We get legendary items all the time.
We get ka-ching experience points, ka-ching caps, ka-ching 20 missiles in your pockets. Congrats, you can't fast travel. But
But do we ever get a thank you?
Right, we don't get that many big thank yous or that many, good weapons. So, a nice little Red Ryder BB gun, that was a good reward. But yeah, that's kind of it for my comments on the feedback. Did you have anything else there?
That gun, the railway rifle, Furious. I think someone said it was a railway rifle.
Yep, they're confirming in chat. It was the Furious weapon. Do you have your popcorn, Andrew? We're about to play Lee's feedback.
Uh-oh, I better get something long.
Well, sit back and enjoy the sonorous tones of Lee's journey with Toe Cutter through the quest.
Episode 9, The Truth Will Out. After spending more than enough time looking around Vault 63 and meeting the people, such as they are, Toe went to see what task Oberlin had for her. Oberlin wanted help with his backlog of tasks within the vault, as he's been dealing with the outside world more lately. He suggested 3 tasks which all involve speaking to people, Margaret, Lawrence, and Julio, so Toe went to find them. She found them all talking in a lounge area. Margaret recognized her as an outsider and asked what brought Toe here, and she mentioned that most of their issues were at the lower levels. They all talked about the 3 tasks which involved rad rats, noises in the generator room, and someone named Alfie who made them lock him in his room. They also mentioned that the disaster that had changed them all to ghouls and created the Lost was an earthquake. The lower levels are accessible via elevators or stairs. Toe decided to take the stairs as they were likely more tactically advantageous. From the looks of it, the lower level of the atrium had been hard hit by the earthquake, and as predicted, it was full of rad rats. Looking around, she found the reactor room, which they had called the generator room, where they had heard strange noises that made them think that they were lost in there. Entering, she found a terminal that gave her access to the reactor room proper, where she could see rad roaches from the control room. With the rad roaches dispatched, Tow realized there were several pipes leaking radiation. Tools in hand, she repaired them since she was there. Leaving the reactor area and closing the door behind her, she continued to search around the lower level to find Alfie's room and the key that was down there somewhere. She found the key on a cart in the residential area with Alfie's room nearby. Entering, it didn't take long to find and be attacked by Alfie. Tow finished the job that his friends could not. He had apparently gone feral, and according to his journal, he didn't know what was happening, but had the foresight to realize he was becoming a danger to others in the vault, and had his friends lock him in his room permanently. He also blamed Stoltz for building his mansion on top of the vault, and Archie and his friends had been outside working on the gutters instead of finishing the vault when the bombs fell. Oddly, among his effects was the Deathclaw hide, perhaps a souvenir of an expedition outside the vault after such things became common. Tow was careful to close Alfie's door when she left. Returning to Alfie's friends, Tow reported that she had taken care of all 3 tasks. Tow asked about the leaders, and they agreed to talk since she had helped them. They said that Stoltz was tough but fair, but since his wife Cassidy disappeared, he wasn't quite as centered as he used to be, and may have reverted to some of his pre-war business practices. Oberlin seems to be capable, but seems to resent working for Stoltz, but they don't know why. Then Tow reported back to Oberlin, who was pleased enough with her work to thank her and give her some items from the vault stock. Tow then returned to Stoltz to take on his task. He wanted help finding the key to a safe in his office, which his wife, Cassidy, had custody of. Unfortunately, she is incapacitated, not missing, and unable to help him find out where she hid it. He, being blind, cannot read her notes to see if she mentioned the location of the key in them. Her notes may also contain private or sensitive vault information that Tow, as a neutral party, is unlikely to care about. Thus he asked Tow to read her notes and find the key. She began her task. In Hugo Stoltz's room, she found an anniversary note to Cassie, whom he called his treasure and his partner in crime. Not sure what he meant by that, so Tow kept searching for Cassie's notes. The headboard of the bed was filled with pre-war money. Interesting. Cassie left a note about her working with Ramona, a theoretical physicist, on art lessons. She lamented that Hugo could not see her artwork. Ramona suggested something called the impasto style, where the paint is heavily applied with brush and a palette knife to provide a texture that Hugo could touch and get the feel of her artwork. Cassie loved the idea. On the bottom half of the coffee table, Tow found Cassidy's journal. The entries read as follows. 18 October 2077, just before the Great War. It mentioned some issue with their daughter Audrey, where Hugo was concerned about the people she was hanging around. Cassie didn't agree with his solution and hoped that Audrey never found out. 13 February 2087, almost 10 years later. Not much of a journal. Cassie missed their travels from before the war and is uncomfortable with the vault, with her only sanctuary being the small waterfall in the garden section of the vault. She also mentions being unwell in some way and that it is getting worse. 8 March 2087. Cassie caught someone in their offices supposedly looking for a report, but Cassie figured they were snooping and decided to hide the more sensitive documents in the safe. She then fashioned the key into the back of her favorite necklace for safekeeping and decided to wear it henceforth. 26 March 2087. Cassie was relaxing by the waterfall and was interrupted by Johnny, the janitor, who came out from a concealed maintenance room behind the waterfall. She decided to mention the room to Hugo in case he didn't know. That was the last entry in the journal. With nothing else to go on, Tow decided to find the waterfall and the concealed room. On her way, she stopped by Hugo's desk and learned more about the vault and his influence in getting Vault 63 built. As I say, with his money and Cassie's people skills, it was nearly inevitable that he get the vault built and that he became the overseer. Finding the garden area, she entered and found Johnny attending to the garden. Sitting at the picnic table, she enjoyed the sound of the waterfall and the piped-in bird calls and felt the warm breeze. It was a really nice addition to any vault. Getting up, she decided to talk to Johnny, but he seemed to be too busy to talk. With nothing better to do, She decided to search around the waterfall and found a rock tunnel leading back to a standard vault residential door. She tried it, and it opened easily. She paused to see if Johnny would appear, as he must have heard it. Nothing. She entered. It seemed to be a normal workroom with access to the pump room for the waterfall and a storeroom at the back. The pump room controls didn't work. She checked the nearby fuse box and found that it was corroded, so she decided some percussive maintenance was in order, and she hit it. The door opened immediately. Entering the pump room, she passed through an anteroom and found Cassidy lying in a bed where she had been cared for. Alongside was one of the large computers, like the one that contained the mayor of Grafton, but it wasn't responding. Cassidy appeared dead, so Toad gingerly searched for her locket. She was warm, so it was likely she was in a coma. Hugo appeared behind her and asked why she was there and told her, "Get your filthy hands off her." Toe asked if he wanted her help or not, saying that Cassidy's got the key. Hugo apologized and asked her to proceed. Toe asked what was wrong with Cassidy, and Hugo, either in denial or with the benefit of his newfound sight, said, "She's perfect. After the accident, she just became quiet." He then encouraged Toe to get the plans. Toe pressed and asked why Cassidy was here and not in the infirmary. Hugo wanted Cassidy to have her quiet privacy and not be out in front of everyone on exhibition. Toe left Hugo with his wife and closed the workroom door on her way back to Hugo's office to fetch the blueprints. In Hugo's office, Toe noticed Cassidy's personal terminal, which a note said was supposed to be in storage. Wanting more information on the vault, Toe examined the terminal. According to a draft press release, Stoltz Industries had begun as an international trade consultancy, with Hugo and Cassie moving to the United States to work more closely with their business partners. The draft ended with a note about the list of partners, stating that the list of partners was pending due to holdouts. This was not the best way to refer to partners. Another draft entry touched on a meeting with one Professor Calvert, whose work intrigued them. Cassidy mentioned they didn't approve of petty games and found that shunning someone known as Des was a definite faux pas. She went on to suggest further collaboration on something out west. The last entry concerned a town hall meeting in Dark Hallow Falls and a big move out. It was not clear what caused the move, and there were no more entries in the terminal. Locating the wall safe, Toe opened it up and found the contents interesting. She found the weather machine blueprints, a love letter, and instructions for a hitman? Apparently Hugo was re-employing a Mr. Redacted to solve a problem with one Quentin Hake, who had raised concerns about their current investments in certain unnamed technologies. Well, Toe decided she should be even more cautious in her dealings with Mr. Stoltz. The love letter was from some communist swine, identified only by the letter A, to someone referred to as "my gorgeous capitalist piggy." How odd. Toe took a mental note and put the papers back in the safe and took the blueprints back to Hugo. She didn't mention the notes. Since he couldn't read the blueprints, he told her to take them to his daughter Audrey in the metrology sector at the Hawksbill weather station, another area of the vault now requiring a trip outside. He then submitted the quandary of the ship of Theseus. Although she sided with it being the same ship with new parts, he suggested the opposite response, but with the question of, with what replacement of which part does it become a different ship? As he did not require an answer, she gave none, and left to find Audrey. Following the road back, she passed Thunder Mountain Station TM03 and remembered to stop by to see Craig and return his team's personal effects from Miles, Rob, and Rebecca. Only Rebecca may have survived. Craig was grateful to have the information and would try to get a radio message back to Foundation, in case he didn't make it back either. Toe left for the Hawksbill weather station. After dispatching more robo-brains, the vault-like cargo door opened with the simple press of a button. Because it was unusual to see two entrances, Toe chose the raised one on the left side, where she found a waiting area which had a Vault 63 maintenance terminal, with a construction report stating that Hugo Stoltz had suddenly halved the delivery deadline for the vault, which put immense pressure on the workforce and led to a lot of corners being cut on the construction. This may have been why the earthquake caused so much damage to the vault. The terminal also contained an entry which revealed at least part of the true purpose of Vault 63. It had access to a linked terminal, which was classified. Project Storm Goliath. The gist of the entries talked about using one Lieutenant Colonel Oberlin's holotape to steal information from the Pentagon, which helped to clear roadblocks to getting their large-sized robotics project through the system. This was a project that would release a Storm Goliath robot variant called Nona Decima Morta automatically whenever Vault 63 was under high alert. Among its armaments was the ability to call down lightning on any intruders. The Vault also had the ability to automatically build and release another, should the first one be destroyed. The only way to stop this system was to have a Vault-Tec representative de-escalate the alert in the engineering sector. The implications of this information were immense, and Tow was determined to proceed with caution in case this was a threat to her investigation. She left the area and headed for the other entry door to the metrology section. As expected, the metrology section was a maze of corridors and rooms, making finding Audrey much more difficult. There were laser grids, but they let Tow pass unmolested, and she found Audrey. She was quite pleased to get the blueprints. When asked about her father, she said that he was more like her boss, with the bonus of him interfering with both her professional and personal lives. She was willing to talk about the weather control aspects of the project and was more reluctant to talk about recent discoveries that made it more important. Tow suspected that these discoveries might have to do with Project Goliath, in addition to the odd storm outside. Audrey rewarded her for her delivery and started to dismiss her, but stopped and asked her to return after she had had time to look over the blueprints, as she may have further need of her services. Tow took some time to look around the metrology section and gave Audrey time to look at the blueprints. She found a lot of damage to the section, and in some places the equipment was sparking, and some of the racks had places where equipment had been removed. The laser grids all let her pass by freely until she came upon one in a damaged area that wouldn't. She couldn't see much beyond it except for more racks of test equipment. The only other interesting thing she saw was a small tabby cat doing his own intense exploration of the area. Returning to Audrey, Tow found her still bent over the blueprints. She looked up and was pleased to see Tow and said that the blueprints revealed the exact part they needed. She knew of a similar part in a weather monitoring station at the Shenandoah Visitor Center. As always with Vault 63 personnel, Tow's outdoor experience was a great asset. Audrey wasn't sure if the part would fix the weather system or not, as there was a lot of damage, but hoped that it might help to, quote, fix the lost as well. Unlike some Vault 63 personnel Tow had met, Audrey was quite nice about asking if she would mind going to fetch the part. She even thanked Tow when she agreed to do it, so she headed out. Once outside, she consulted her map and found the visitor center was west of substation TM03. Inside, she found a park ranger who was scared that she might be one of the weirdos that he'd seen. He also knew where the weather monitoring device was. It was in his bunker, but now more weirdos blocked the way. I heard them chanting down there and mentioned a human sacrifice named Alan. Tow agreed to clear out the weirdos and see if they knew anyone named Alan. Yep, Mothman cultists. Once the temple was cleared, she found a note on the podium directing the Mothman cultists to perform a ritual near the latest Mothman sighting and retrieve more supplies from the gift shop and return with the next offering. It was signed Alex. Tow wondered if the ranger was mistaken about who was the sacrifice and who was the officiate. Talking to the ranger again, he said he had never heard of the cultists, but from their chanting, he gleaned that someone named Alex had sent them. Maybe Tow had misheard him after all. The ranger led the way into the bunker. When they got to his room, they talked a bit about how the other rangers had left either on supply missions or to look for their families and had never come back. He seemed happy in his isolation. Tow got the part she needed from the weather system and left. She made it back to Hawksbill Weather Station without much trouble, just the usual robo-brains outside. Tow wondered where they kept coming from. She returned to Audrey and asked how her research was going. Audrey became agitated and started to ask what business was it of hers. Then she calmed down and apologized and asked if Tow had found the part. Tow gave her the part and mentioned the cultists. Audrey had never heard of them either. She had, however, heard of an Alex. She had known an Alex before the war and was visibly shaken. She had already modified their equipment to accept a commercial part and asked Tow to attach it while she gathered herself her equipment. Tow found a sparking panel where the new part had to be fit and installed it. Audrey came in and checked Tow's work. She completed making some connections and said that Tow had done well for her first time working on a weather machine. Then she mentioned that all they needed now was a scan of her mother's eyes, as she was the only one authorized to make the changes they needed to finish the work. At that point, Hugo ran in, saying Audrey's mother was gone. Not passed, but gone, as in someone had kidnapped her, and left a note with some crazy talk about a Mothman. Audrey then made the connection between Alex and the cultists, and the secret was out when Hugo blurted that he had taken care of Alex. This threw Audrey into a rage, asking how her father had taken care of Alex. He responded with platitudes about doing what had to be done in her best interests. She raged at him about how he had always controlled her life and that she'd been miserable the whole time. Audrey then stormed out. Hugo insisted that she had a flair for the dramatic, and they needed to find out more about how to get his wife back. When asked about how he took care of Alex, he said she was a bad influence and a threat to their business, but especially to Audrey. He wanted to return to the matter at hand. Toe pressed and played her hand by asking if the letter she had found with the blueprints was from Alex. He admitted that the letter shocked both Cassidy and himself, and had caused the whole problem. He wasn't sure if the cultist Alex was the same person, but it was possible, as the hitman had never returned. Toe was shocked that he admitted it so openly. Hugo then said that whoever kidnapped Cassidy deserved to die. Toe took the assignment to try and rescue Cassidy, but preferred to not kill Alex if possible. Hugo relented and said yes. He decided that he could accept Alex into the family if it was the price of getting Cassidy back. Toe was surprised that he relented, and he said that Audrey may have had a point about the whole happiness thing, and Toe may have had a point about the whole violence thing. Toe then left the facility to look for the cultist camp.
So there you go.
Andrew, I just want to shout something out real quick.
Yes.
Shout out to all the work people put in on their feedback and such. You know, Ray, Andrew, and I, we get in front of a microphone and babble for a few hours a week. I mean, yeah, okay. We play, we research, we plan stuff. You know, we do show notes and games and all that. But like Lee, for that feedback there, you have a tendency to write things out ahead. So I might tease you about the length sometime. But one thing that we get with all the work you put in, the way that you write out your feedback, is things like what is actually happening on some of those terminals, like the stuff with Project Storm Goliath. I mean, we'll talk about that more when we get to those quests a little bit. But diving into this terminal, getting into the contents of the letters and such, it's just really helpful. And so I just want to say we appreciate it.
Yes, that's absolutely. I can second that emotion, definitely.
Mm-hmm. As usual, he also shared some pics along the way, too.
Oh, sweet.
I mentioned in chat, like, is it funny that every week I'm like, oh, yay, pictures when Lee starts his feedback, but everybody else chimed in, no, we're all like that. A good time. I've got some pictures from Sulior as well, from his playthrough, and some pictures from Lee. We've used a few people's pictures as part of our covers. A lot of times we use our own, but sometimes if we get pictures from you guys, we'll incorporate them in as covers, too. In fact, the cover we have had the most often, the classic Institute with the big old circle and the synth on the frame, that was just a picture that Will took randomly. Like 4
that was
years
a Will
ago, right?
picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Years ago now, yeah.
Yeah, it was really well framed. And we're like, okay, we're going to make that our default pick when we don't have one. Did you have anything you wanted to get into on Lee's feedback, Andrew?
That was just very thorough and excellent storytelling and just, very, very well done. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, I love hearing from Toe. Maybe another thing that happens after episode 500 of a podcast is not only do you go off the rails more, but you get nostalgic for your own podcast. So I was joking earlier about, the whole Rad Rat Ray and like the old terminal velocity names, but I just had that happen again during Lee's feedback when he mentioned the way that he said Cassidy has the key. It reminded me of the old boy is key from that quest back in the day.
Sorry, which key?
It was the episode where we're doing the Wastelanders quests and the Wayward. And everyone said, boy is key. And we did a big old montage of how they said it during that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, beautiful. You put them all together as a little montage. And I never forget the way Clint was all, boy is key.
Boy is key.
It just cracked me up. So yeah, nostalgic for our own podcast. That's what happens when you're about to turn 10. So let's see. I like the fact that he mentions open to talking. Everyone handles things differently. Like we didn't dwell on Kevin for Lee as much. What do you want to go into next, Andrew?
I don't know. Do we have any iguana bits or something?
Yeah. Okay. Let me just find the
pig corn.
Nope, that's not it.
Yes,
Hold on.
Pig corn.
Hold on.
Prepare.
What do I got?
Just prepared a pig corn.
I prepared a pig corn.
Yes. Report to the office, please. Your iguana bits are ready.
Thank you. You said it with such authority. I like it. Iguana bits this week, y'all. We definitely have some news to get into. The big thing is, of course, the Ghoul update. Glow of the Ghoul, or the update itself, is called Ghoul Within. So the new season Andrew was talking about earlier is Glow of the Ghoul. That's officially season 20. And you were going to get into what you thought about the rewards, but we were kind of losing your signal earlier. Did you have any thoughts on that you wanted to share?
Oh, is my signal better, by the way?
Yeah, much better. You've been fine since we started feedback.
There must have been a storm passing through.
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying I thought that usually they kind of backload the season to make people motivated to complete it.
Get to that 95.
I was looking at stuff. I kind of think the stuff I want is all on the front two screens.
So I take it you're down with the glowing ghoul mask?
Glowing ghoul mask is sweet. I love the goo pool. What did they call it? The goo tub?
The goo tub, which, by the way, everyone thought that was going to give us radiation so we could get our glow up. You know what I mean? You got to get that glow up as a ghoul. But right now it doesn't give rad. So not sure if it's a bug or not, because of all the things they've mentioned, they have not come out and said that was supposed to give rads. But everyone's asking for it to give rads, so hopefully that changes.
Well, I mean, they've given us a couple of other things, like there's that meteor that gives you rads. There's a barrels. There's a few things we can put in our camp.
Oh, we got a picture of a custom ghoul, got a custom goo tub in chat labeled Ghoul Friends. Got a big old sign that says Ghoul Friends on it. Everybody's welcome in that goo tub.
Somebody's already putting the bobbing for apples tub in the goo tub.
Yeah, don't go deep on the goo tub. That is, no, don't go deep on the goo tub, you guys. That sounds messy. So let's see.
Definitely not.
The season rewards. So we got that tub. We got the nosy glasses. What do you think of that disguise?
That's hilarious. Is that what a ghoul is supposed to wear to look like a human?
Wouldn't that be great? Like if that was the disguise you had to put on? But I mean, hey, you know.
Groucho glasses.
Okay, Andrew, what's a ghoul's least favorite joke in the Wasteland?
Oh, wait, I feel like this is a setup. Let's see. A ghoul's least favorite joke? I don't know.
Got your nose.
Got your nose. That's great.
Oh, poor dads. Dads everywhere sad that their favorite dad joke is no longer welcome. Lee actually guessed it. That's awesome. Good job, Lee. But yeah, we've got the Ghoul Vault Boy statue is cool. The nosy glasses, that's pretty neat. The glowing ghoul mask. I mentioned the other day, I don't think I said it on the show, but that the rewards this season remind me of you can't do that on television. Everything's like green and slimy and gross. It's just icky.
Yeah. Let's do the Double Dare final challenge or whatever that's called.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'm looking at the slime cake.
Slime cake.
I'm down with ghouls, but the season rewards here are pretty grody. I have to say, the Ultrasight furniture set. How far ahead on the board have you looked? Have you flipped through it all already?
Yeah, I think I looked through the whole thing. You like the furniture set?
Yeah, it looks kind of like carved jello. It's actually really neat looking.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. But I see what you're saying, that a lot of the good stuff is on the front half. Oh, the posing skeletons. That may be my favorite reward on this one.
What is the level 100 package or whatever?
So if we go to the bonus page is the Boneyard Planter Kit. I think that's the big reward. Like they've got petrified corpses. Grow your own petrified corpse. Exciting. Boneyard planters. Nuka-Cola vendors. A bunch of skeleton parts. So yeah, it's very much about the skeleton stuff.
Okay.
You would think that'd be a little bit more Halloween than ghouls, but they're mixing that in. But before that, like at the one right before, level 92, where you get the big poster, you just get some metal barrels. There's a cool throne.
Weird.
But yeah, the big rewards at the end are just on the bonus screen, it seems like. Oh, this is actually awesome. The Nuclear Pyrotechnic Kit is a new fireworks maker that is radioactive. That's going to be really cool, I think.
Oh.
I haven't seen one in action yet, but I have high hopes. I swear, if it's trail fireworks, I'm canceling my Fallout first. Make it impressive, okay? I want to be wowed by the nuclear fireworks.
I haven't thought about trail fireworks in forever.
You know, good for you. And I think you're better for it. So are all of us.
I don't remember what those were for.
So that's the new season. And now that we've actually all had a chance to kind of see it and flip through the board and get our first points on our way to Scorecation, which, Andrew, did you know that there are people already done the scoreboard again?
What?
Every time. 5 days. That's all it takes. So a couple people got it done within the first 2 days. They're just out there grinding.
Like Christmas.
West Tech and all that. I get it. I get the urge to just get it done and over with. But I don't know. I feel like the daily challenges or weekly challenge is really the way I do it. There's a motivating factor. You know what I mean? If you don't have quests to do or you're not hanging out with friends, you want a reason to log in and just play the game. And I mean, that's what the seasons do. And I personally like stretching it out.
Do those folks play the game in between, or do they just play it for 5 days, finish the scoreboard, and then put it away until the new season starts another, 2.5, 3 months from now?
I think there are two camps on that kind of. I think that there are a group of people who have just played the game forever like us, and all they do now is log in to do the season and say, good, I got everything, I'm done. But I think more of the grinders I know who are hardcore into grinding like that, they are then going to go and play the game after. They're going to do their events. They're going to hang with friends and do stuff. They're going to run, nukes and fight the beaver and, the Scorch Beast Queen and all that.
Beaver.
Oh, and you know what? I was on Twitch the other day. Surprise, surprise. And a chat wouldn't let me say beaver. I got censored, Andrew.
What?
I'm all like, oh, look, you're going to fight the giant beaver. Yeah, like, it wouldn't let me type it. I was so... When did that become inappropriate? I mean, don't get me wrong. You can make it inappropriate. But yeah, I was surprised that was actually censored in chat.
That's really funny.
Looking at the calendar.
No, I was really talking about the aquatic mammal.
Exactly. Literally talking about the aquatic mammal with the little flat tail and all that. Yeah. So we have a double score this weekend on the calendar. And also there is a photo mode contest going on for Adams. I'm going to pull up the official announcement. 1 second. So Bethesda announced this. Our Ghoul photo mode contest is live. Enter your best Ghoul photo for a chance to win Adams. Full details and links to the rules here. Due to legal constraints, the contest is only open to residents of the US and Canada, 18 years and older. I don't know why it's not open to all international participants, but if you're in the US and Canada, there is a Ghoul photo mode contest. The rules are on their Discord, and you should submit them on the Discord as well. So if you're not part of the Bethesda Game Studios Discord, get on it. Get in there. It's huge and it's busy. So I get if you don't post there much because it can be a little overwhelming, but it's a great place to hear about contests. If you do want to jump in, there are chats not just for 76, but also like Starfield chat and all the games. Elder Scrolls chat, Castles, Fallout Shelter. They have a Fallout Shelter dedicated chat.
There, dude.
I am scrolling back. The last comment from somebody in Fallout Shelter chat was just yesterday, and they said, I've been playing with the same vault since 2020. Well, good on you. That's awesome. Dude. It's active to this day, Andrew. Yeah, so anyway, but we're talking about the photo mode contest, the Ghoul-tastic photo mode contest. What's the basic rules here? To participate, take one photo of your Ghoul character using the in-game photo mode feature. Make sure your Ghoul is clearly visible in the image and the star of the photo. This isn't a camp contest. You can use your camp to create a fun backdrop, etc., or simply pose in a location around Appalachia. And it's going to be open all week. It started on Thursday, March 20th, and it's closing Thursday, March 27th at noon Eastern. So get your photos in by Thursday at noon if you're going to join.
Super sweet.
Yeah, speaking of Ghoul photos, ghouls everywhere. That's definitely my next story in the Iguana Bits right now. It seems like everybody's gone Ghoul. Ghoul's gone wild,
Of course, it's the new thing.
It's the new hotness, exactly. But like, I'm just picturing like someone just standing there looking around. I am surrounded by ghouls. I feel like everybody's got at least one character they're trying it with, which makes sense. Some people are doing 1 or 2. Some people have started new characters that they leveled for a while because you have to be level 50 to start the Ghoul quest. But did you hear about this new thing Fallout is doing?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. There is now a level 50 boost kit to start the game. So we know they added a new character.
Thing.
Right. Start at level 20 when you exit the vault. Great. You get a little bit of a build, etc. Now you can buy a level 50 character boost in the Atomic Shop. Just a quick description of what it is. With level 50 character boost, you can jump into Fallout 76 and get into all the multiplayer activities. It includes a one-time character boost, 1,000 caps, which isn't that many caps in the scheme of things, but enough to fast travel. A number of unlocked map markers for fast travel, so they will unlock some markers for you. And you'll get a set of starting armor and weapons, which includes some mods. You get full perk cards for level 50 and some extras. You get some premium consumables, and you get a variety of plans and recipes. So basically, they're getting rid of a lot of the hard work for you. You know, you get some basic plans, some basic chems. The equipment they give you, they're giving you like a different couple of options. You get a Juggernaut's handmade rifle, you get a Suppressor's super sledge, and the armor they give you is weightless combat armor. So it's not like super OP or anything like that, but enough that you can kind of keep up with people at level appropriate standards. So all the basics. And how many atoms does it cost? I'm trying to remember. 1,500 atoms. So yeah, for the low price, $15, you can skip the fun.
Well, I gotta pay to avoid playing a video game. I mean,
see,
that's
the
whole purpose, right?
This is how I look at these. I understand some people want to get right into the action, and what they care about are multiplayer events. You can do this on WoW. You can do this on a lot of MMOs. But I mean, well, especially for us, considering that we're all about leveling your character, your progression, the quests along the way. Like that is exactly our thing. So the idea of paying to skip the good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really care about launching nukes. I mean, don't get me wrong. Running a silo with friends can be fun. Fighting the Scorch Beast Queen can be fun. But yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. It's about the journey. Not to be too trite, but geez. Sorry, but we were talking ghouls. I got on a little bit of tangent there. So Leor's character, he is making a ghoul from his character Matt that he crafted to be a ghoul. A lot of other people have them. I mentioned before that I didn't think I was going to have Hard Knock become a ghoul, my current roundtable character. But my old character, Ron, is going to be a ghoul. And yeah, he looks great. My main character, despite the fact that I've shared several pictures of her as a ghoul, that was just for testing. And that's not on public server, not on the main server with the main character. So she is not, rumors of her ghoulitude are exaggerated. She's not yet actually not doing it on my main. And I think that's what I'm hearing from a lot of people. There are people who will on their main character, but playing a ghoul is so different. So many changes with the perk cards and such that it's not for everyone. You know, there's a lot of cool opportunities, but it's not for everyone. And I mean, I'm sorry, she's got pretty skin. Don't do that to her, please.
I was looking at the ghoul presets, and like a couple of the ghoul ladies, I was like, well, she's kind of hot for a ghoul lady. You know, she's not all that unattractive. I was like, well, I guess the ghouls don't have to be hideous monsters.
No, you're not wrong, Joe. And some of the others, I mean, there are some cute ghouls out there. And I like the fact that ghouls are fully customizable. I mentioned before, but you get into the character creator, you have a full character creator there with new options. You know, fun new eye colors like Bloodshot Dirty Yellow, Bloodshot Dirty Blue, Bloodshot Dirty Green. Pick your color. No, but you can also get like glowing green and like some cool black eyes, like all kinds of options.
Yeah, there's a few presets. I think there are 4 or 5 presets to choose from, and then you can build from there.
New tattoos too. Did you go through the tattoo and accessory menu at all?
I saw that it had like didn't they have like the Tectus style ones from
there's like
Harbor?
Some kind of unique ones. There's an Atom one. There's a little Mothman tattoo, bunch of stuff.
There's an Atom ones.
He has an atom on his cheek. Yeah, so everybody out there just looking gorgeous. That is fantastic. So I'm so glad people can play a ghoul, but not something I want to do on my main. And there's a lot to learn about new ghoul builds. There are a number of good videos out there. Some people have mentioned Angry Turtle, of course, doing some videos on ghoul builds and stuff using the new systems. I would highly recommend Mr. Church's video on becoming a ghoul. He spent a lot of time on the public test server when I was there. He was pretty much every time I looked at the public test server, he was on playing. And so he did like a 25-minute video on everything you need to know to be a ghoul. One thing that's different with the new ghoul system of glow, getting your glow up and the way you use that, you need to get a lot of rads. And you spend glow. It kind of acts as a shield, but it also acts as something you can spend to do more damage on your attacks and all that. In order to get your glow increased again, to get more rads, the best way is probably using the toxic goo. Keep it on you. You can always have goo on you. In the test server, he mentions the radiation gun is best. The gamma gun, for instance, if you are standing and you just kind of shoot the ground or shoot a wall next to you, bathe yourself in those rads from the gamma gun, that is a great way to go, but the goo is actually much more effective. On the test server, for whatever reason, it wasn't, but they kicked that up a notch. So on the live build, it definitely is.
Where do you get that? Where's the goo from?
From West Tech. The big old vats of green stuff, you can actually, get toxic goo there.
You just dip your little canteen in.
Mm-hmm. It's a good way.
Yum.
A lot of people with bloody builds would use it in the past to keep their rads tight. Just drink goo when they're low.
See.
Or if you want to insta-die, impress and astound your friends by instantly dying on them. Just do it by drinking too much goo so you die. I just love, collapsing.
Yeah.
Cracks me up every time.
Ragdolling off a cliff.
Mm-hmm. But I'd recommend a couple of those videos. I don't know that we want to go through all the mechanics here on the Iguanabits, but did you have any questions about ghoulification, Andrew, that have kind of come up for you that we might want to talk about?
No, I went through the quest and a half and kind of like I didn't really mess around with it much. So I don't even have questions to ask because I didn't really play with it much.
Yep.
I just sort of ran through the quest and went back to that's the sort of the drawback of them introducing this cool new game style at the top of a new season, because I also feel like, okay, now my gameplay has to be obligation, got to go do my scoreboard crap and da 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 da. And then by the time I'm done doing all the scoreboard stuff, I'm tired and need to go to bed. So I guess I should be using the ghoul to do my daily stuff, but the character's not as good. It's not as fast, not as efficient to do my daily quest.
You definitely don't need to, play how you want to play. And having a ghoul character on the side, you can experiment with it when you have time to do that.
But one thing I made the ghoul mask. So my ghoul is wearing the ghoul mask.
Your non-glowing ghoul has a ghoul mask. That's perfect.
Yeah. All right.
So I'll just hit my quick bullet point takeaways from this. So these are my own notes from things I've seen playing as a ghoul and from doing stuff. We all know about becoming ghouls a quest. Gameplay changes for ghouls that you have to have a disguise for certain missions, which are usually just main quest interiors. No one else is going to treat you that different. You do automatically get a -10 charisma penalty when you become a ghoul, because ghouls are, there are some cute, ghouls out there, but you get a -10 charisma. There are 28 new perk cards and 2 legendary perk cards. It's really 28 and 2. There are about 20 perk cards that don't work for ghouls. And the 2 new mechanics introduced, the 2 things that are big new mechanics besides what the new perk cards do, is your glow bar and your feral meter. So what are those? Okay, the glow bar, it means radiation heals ghouls, and they create and grow a glow bar, which is kind of like a bit of a shield as it comes. Also, your character will start to actually glow and have like green mist around you, like a glowing one when you're fully powered up. What glow does, it works with some of your perks, some of the different ghoul perks. You will makes them activated, and it also boosts weapon damage. The big old challenges that kind of come from this are maintaining your glow, because as you fight and use attacks, you're burning the glow to get more weapon damage, but then you have to refill it or your glow gets depleted. Essentially, the best strategy to keep up your glow, like we're talking, is have toxic goo on hand, have a gamma gun, or just hang out and dip in your mutation pools a lot. You also want to make sure you have low radiation resistance in order to be able to up your glow, because if you're wearing a lot of equipment with rad resistance and stuff, it's going to hurt your ability to actually gain glow. So take a look at what you have on your armor and your various suits and stuff like that.
What happens if you have what rads on your character?
So you can't use what rads as a ghoul. That's one of those perks that has been kind of disabled as a ghoul. Yep. So the other meter besides glow bar is the feral meter. And ferality, is that a word? Ferality is what we have instead of hunger and thirst. So some people have been mentioning the feral bar seems weird because you are fully feral when it's at 0. So calling it a feral meter when it works the opposite of what you'd expect, where you're thinking, oh, when it hits 100%, you're fully feral. But no, fully feral is 0. So instead of thinking of it as a feral meter, think of it more as a humanity or sanity bar, okay? You've got all your humanity, you've got all your sanity. When it's full, when it's out, that's when you're fully feral. There's a lot to it, and the more feral you get, there are a bunch of different effects that happen along the way. Let's take a look at the feral meter real quick. When it hits 100%, you do a lot more melee damage, among other things. See, fully feral, you get 150% melee damage, but you have reduced HP, reduced VATS accuracy, etc. The buffs kick into gear when the meter's above about 75%. You get more strength, endurance, and max HP when you are less feral. And the meter depletes over time, just like hunger and thirst. So if you do nothing, you slowly become more and more feral.
Can I do that thing where I hold my hands up and then all of the dead ghouls around me raise from the dead and become empowered, like the necromancer glowing one sort of thing that they do?
Wouldn't that be great if you could actually raise other ghouls from the dead with the ghoul perk cards?
Oh, that'd be great.
Awesome. Now I'm thinking, I don't know all the new ghoul perk cards yet. But I wonder if there is one to heal other ghouls around you. Just double checking my list. Let's see. Battle genes. No, that uses
And that's just
radiation
like
to heal
medic. It'd
you.
be like the ghoul version of medic or whatever.
Yeah, that's all I can think of. I don't know if there is a new perk to actually be able to heal your companions by spending glow. That would be pretty cool if you could send a little like green burst around you to heal people. Anyway, that wraps up the big points. The last thing is reverting to human. We talked about that a bit too. You can revert to human once. So if you become a ghoul, you don't like it, you want to go back to human, you can do that for free. So you can become a ghoul on the quest line. You can change back for free. How do you do that? It's actually on the menu. When on the main menu, when you go to the choose a character screen, there's a little thing next to your character, and you can actually choose to unghoulify them there. If you're going to re-ghoulify them, now you don't do the quest again. It costs 1,000 atoms. So you pay 1,000 atoms to be a ghoul again, which again,
Oh, geez.
it's an odd choice to make it monetary, but I do get the idea of putting some kind of stumbling block in the way. It would be maybe better if they made it like a couple of hard quests, something you had to grind and earn in game. Like, okay, you were a ghoul, you ungoulified, now go do like 10 expeditions, and get a lot of radiation out there on the Atlantic City shoreline, and you can become a ghoul again. But
why do they care? Why does it matter to them if we're a ghoul or not? Why would they need to put up a roadblock?
It seems like they just don't want people, even though lore breaking stuff is, okay in 76 with gameplay mechanics. I think that maybe they decided that would be just a kind of a step too far. That in the actual lore, and as you're told on the quest, you can't become a ghoul and switch back. It's a one-way trip. And maybe as a nod to having people not become ghoul, unghoul, and constantly, messing up their perks, messing up the way things work for them, they said, we want to put a roadblock there so people aren't just doing that. Personally, I like it. I mean, I don't like the fact they're charging money for it. But
Yeah,
I do think becoming a ghoul and unghoulifying, I don't know, call me old-fashioned, but I do think it should be something that's done easily.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's talk about a couple of little issues that have come up with the update, because no update is without issues. So the first big one is the perk card issue. So after the update on Tuesday, some people were finding that their loadouts would disappear or change, and some perk cards kept being unmounted. That is always a thing. It's people trying to figure out what was going on with it and why did it keep happening. Happened most often when they were in big battles or getting irradiated. Well, it turns out it's connected to the Rad Specialist perk. If you have the Rad Specialist perk mounted on your build and, it's actually activating, then you're going to lose some of your perk cards and they're going to become unmounted. So that's just a kind of a PSA warning for everyone. If you're using Rad Specialist, check your perk cards regularly to make sure they're not being unmounted. And personally, I might avoid it for now. The other big thing, the crashing. Some people who have gone to become a ghoul, they found that they weren't able to become a ghoul because they do the quest. And you have to do the thing that walk into the room and take the drug and you become a ghoul. Right, Andrew? So if you do that, it should just happen. You sleep, you wake up, you're ghoulified, okay, with the storyline without giving spoilers at this point. There were a large number of people who every time they tried it, 2, 3, 4 times in a row, they would crash. Every time you get ghoulified, you crash, and it wasn't working. It's been very frustrating for people. Well, it turns out it's because of the way the system works. If you are wearing rad-resistant gear, if you have your rad resistance up, it can actually stop the ghoulification process and cause you to crash. This is nothing we found on the test server. So I don't know what might have changed, but say you go in and you're wearing your Chinese stealth armor, like when you go to become ghoulified, walk into the chamber, you won't absorb enough rads for the system to ghoulify you, and it will crash the game.
Your armor says, hell no.
Exactly. Like it'll undo all of your rad resistance perks. It has to lower your rad resistance down to make you a ghoul. So it nullifies those perks and brings that down to 0. But if you're wearing armor with built-in rad resistance, especially heavy stuff, or you have something else causing you to have high rad resistance that the game can't remove, that it would conflict with the base code, it will crash your game. So for anyone having trouble, that's exactly what's going on. It's a feature.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't it? You wouldn't think that it would be that realistic. You would think that it would be completely separate, that they would simply just change the code on your character. But no, there's some mechanic happening that the game code has to reduce your rad resistance 0 or whatever the threshold is. If it can't, it crashes.
That's hilarious.
And it's funny how things like that don't show up in testing, even when you do it.
Yeah.
The final thing I want to mention on Iguana Bits, there was a question in our Fallout chat about another new mechanic that has come up, the onslaught mechanic.
Yeah,
So-
I saw something about increases damage and onslaught, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, what's that mean?
It's kind of a new system. It works as like a stack, but it's available to everyone now. So in the past, you could get stacks from when equipment was furious. You know what I mean? Like with a furious weapon, you would use it and you would gain stacks. Now, with the onslaught system, you can get damage stacks regardless of weapon. It increases the damage based on the number of active stacks you have. You get a plus 5% damage boost per stack you have. If you have a furious weapon, using that stack system still works. You automatically get the ability to have up to 9 stacks. So you get 9 stacks with a weapon. You get 5% damage boost from each. That would be a 45% damage boost with the furious. But now you can get it other ways. So you can get it using, you can get it using perk cards. Guerrilla Expert now gives you certain stacks. Guerrilla Master, Gunslinger Expert, Gunslinger Master. And any of those will end up boosting the amount of stacks you can have. It's a complicated system, kind of hard to break down now, but let's just say you can increase your number of stacks using the various cards. Stacks will build up over time. If you stop attacking, you lose about a stack a second. So you have to keep attacking for it to work. That's why it was a Furious thing before. In the past with Furious, the stack would go away when you switched enemies. I don't believe that is the case with the Onslaught stacks. Angry Turtle, again, has the best video on this, but it's a pretty complicated system. You get the numbers, you get the percentages, all that. But essentially, Onslaught is a stack system available to everybody. That's the basics. Well, that about wraps up my bits. You have anything else on that you want to bring up, Andrew?
No, I still haven't really done enough with the ghoul stuff to have lots of opinions on it yet.
Oh, yeah, the last thing I want to mention about Onslaught. When you're using shotguns or weapons like explosive that does multiple hits, you get a stack per hit. So if you have cars mounted that add the Onslaught ability to get stacks, and you're using a shotgun that does like 8 hits at once, like shotguns do, you're going to get stacks real fast. So it's great with those. And because weapons, there is one Onslaught perk card called Gunslinger Master. And that's the one that works opposite. So instead of getting a stack for every hit, it actually removes a stack for every hit, and they grow when you're not fighting. So it reverses it. So if you hear someone talking about about having some confusion with the stack system and Gunslinger Master, it's because that one is the opposite of everything else. So using Gunslinger Master with an automatic weapon, not a great choice because you'll spend all your stacks really fast on low damage. So that is good for a high damage, slow firing weapon, Gunslinger Master. Yeah, it's a complicated system. That's why I wanted to mention that, because it was brought up in chat that was a little confusing to people.
Yeah, it's going to take some getting used to.
Mm-hmm. Chat's chiming in. Delicious bits tonight. Juicy bits, ghoulish bits. You got it, guys. Happy to serve them up. Fresh and hot.
Tasty bits.
Any shout outs tonight, Andrew?
I don't think so off the top of my head. Oh, I hope Angel's tooth feels better. How about that?
That's true. Yeah, our friend Angel, she's been on the show before, done some play along with us. Side of her face swelled up. So I hope you feel better, Angel, for sure.
Yeah. Speedy recovery.
Yeah, I hope she's not becoming a ghoul.
Oh no, what if she is?
Considering that she, sells skincare products, yeah, that's probably not the best idea.
Oh my god, that means she's already a ghoul.
Skincare routine for ghouls.
That's just a cover-up.
Could be, but no. I mean, what a business that would be. Skincare in the ghoul age. We need a whole line of fashion and cosmetic consultants for ghouls now.
Betty No-Nos out there pitching the new makeup.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I want to give a quick shout out to a Fudge Muppet video. Brendan Nandon just shared in our Skyrim chat in the Discord. Fudge Muppet put out a video, everything Skyrim players need to know before Oblivion. So we love Fudge Muppet, builds and various ideas. Great channel. They've got a nice little primer. If you're a Skyrim or Fallout player, hasn't gone back to Oblivion, it's going to kind of give you a primer on things you need to know. I mean, assuming the remixture is real, right?
What if it doesn't happen at all?
Also, I want to give a quick shout out to my dames. Hopefully hanging out with them this weekend. And there should be a new read, slightly old dames episode out again soon, because whenever we get together to record a new one, usually make sure to put out an old one. We're almost caught up. We only recorded one episode last year. So even being almost caught up, they're still older. Yeah.
is still awesome to listen to.
I appreciate that. Gonna be great to catch up with them tomorrow and see what's going on, what books
that'll
they've
be
been
great.
reading and such. Yeah, good time.
All right. Well, in that case, you can find Jess and all of her many projects over there at Sleep is for Tea on the Blue Sky. Jess, thanks so much for hopping on.
It's been great.
I am also on the Blue Sky. We encourage people to join our Discord, and our show can be found at the Fallout Feed. I'd like to thank everyone for downloading this edition of the Fallout Feed. We will see you in the Wasteland.
Thank you for downloading this episode of the Fallout Feed Roundtable. If you are interested in doing a play-along character with us, the show can be contacted by emailing falloutroundtable@gmail.com. For the Roundtable schedule, our Amazon link, and all other show information, please head on over to asapodcasting.com, where you will find the Fallout Feed, a Skyrimatic podcast, our YouTube channel, the Chatterbox, as well as other content. Once again, thank you for downloading, and we'll see you in the Wasteland.